go, I'd like everybody please to stand for the national anthem. Or pledge allegiance, excuse me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, Assessor Colin, are the speakers working out there? No? Okay. One more slide delay while you're taking care of that, Council Huddle. Thank you. Good morning, all. Introductions. Commissioner Gold to my right. I have Council Huddle, Staff Jesuit. In the audience, we have Gordon Clay, head of our Suicide Prevention Committee. We have Matt Hall. We have former Commissioner George Rose. We have Sheriff John Ward. We have Emergency Management Coordinator Jeremy Dumeyer, Public Health Administrator Cherie Ward. Thank you all for coming. Julie Swift, head of HR, Assessor Colin out in the hall, and we are spreading our meeting out here so that we can abide by the governor's request to have a minimum of 25 people. Huh?
Do we want to check to make sure Commissioner Pash is on the phone?
And I'm getting that. Yes, thank you. Okay. Commissioner Pash, are you able to hear okay?
Yes, I am. I just want to let you know the live feed is about 30 to 40 seconds behind.
Okay. Well, we hope you're getting better. We appreciate you calling in. Sorry you can't be here. Pretty busy day. We're going to try and move the meeting fairly quickly. A lot of important items. I just have a quick opening comment. Then I want to give Commissioner Gold and Commissioner Pash a quick chance to say what we've been dealing with the last, particularly the last month. And I do want to tell, we are going to have some public comment here in just a moment. I want you to come up and adjust the microphones each time, if you would, please. Just a little disclaimer, if someone wants to criticize or plans to criticize the president, our governor, any of our staff, that's not going to be accepted. We'll just hope for a quick meeting here so we can get everybody back to their homes and their businesses. And it's been a trying time for absolutely the last month. Some of us have been here 24/7. We're reading everything we get our hands on. I absolutely want to give kudos to the president for his conduct and his effort in battling the coronavirus, the COVID-19. Certainly Governor Brown has, in my opinion, done an excellent job. We have pulled our county together, and I want the citizens to know we're not lagging here. We have pulled everyone together. We have worked very hard to be informed, to be responsive and not reactive. Matt Hall reminded me the other day, this is like the World War II spirit. Our kids and grandkids are depending on us to kind of get this right. We think that there's going to be some great ensuing prosperity post-war. So I don't know when we're going to get to the top of that curve, but cooler heads have really prevailed here, and I'm incredibly thankful for that. So yes, happy on the progress. Commissioner Pash or Commissioner Gold, would you like to offer a comment this time?
I have quite a bit to offer. I've been working on this for, 2 or 3 days straight, trying to get information out to people. I'm concerned that people are basing their decisions on Facebook posts or that sort of thing, so I'm trying to get out websites that people can get factual information from. Also, I'm very impressed with some of the people here. One of our janitorial staff got sick, and so people are stepping up. Beth Barker-Hidalgo over in the Colvin building, I talked to her, and she is going to be making sure that their entire building is clean and sanitized. Also, there was an individual that sent me they were very upset that they didn't have the money for electric. I contacted Coos Curry Electric, and they're working with these folks. Cherie Ward has been amazing. We've got our declaration of emergency going here. She and the OHA representative were here, and she's up to speed. Also, Jeremy Dumeyer. I'm impressed with what's going on there. Heard this morning that there's a group called Shopping Angels that are helping individuals, elderly individuals, or people who are compromised do their shopping. This started somewhere else, but I think it could be started here. We've got friends and neighbors helping each other. That's what we want to do. We want to I would say don't panic. Prepare for the worst. Thank you.
Very good, Commissioner Gold. Thank you. Commissioner Pash?
I don't have a lot. All I want to say is that what I've heard locally here is how well the staff has been pulled together and coordinated with each other, and everyone reaching out to each other for help and assistance. And I would just like to say thank you to them for that. That's all I have.
I have one other thing I forgot.
Certainly.
I reached out to the food bank in South Curry, and they have been making these snack packs for the kids, over 1,000, which is amazing. I've reached out to the schools to see if they're checking on daycare and what they're doing as far as food for the kiddos, and they're all working together. So kudos to all of those folks.
Thank you again. It's been good to work with some of the long-term public officials who have been elected and serving Curry County, some of them for 30 years. Assessor Colin has been working behind the scenes, been very helpful. Two press releases the sheriff sent out recently that are very good and timely. He's been working here for many, many years. We're going to forego the line of duty desk, not because it's not important, but because I think we can delay it for a week. And we may end up having a meeting next couple of weeks. We'll just see how that goes. And sent out an email this morning, basically said, hey, are we going to be okay if we have 25 people show up? And Johnny on the spot, people were here moving chairs out. That's why we've got you kind of spread out. Everybody knows this is a thermometer, old-fashioned thermometer. That's one of the first symptoms you can have if you have this COVID pathogen virus. And so my mom gave me this, and my temperature again this morning was down just a little bit. But I encourage you, if you have any access to the good old-fashioned thermometer, monitor yourself. That's a good way to go. On the screen here, and I put them out all over most of the chairs and in the hallway. This is the president's effort to slow the spread of this disease. We keep hearing social distancing, and we're into day three on his plan. Most of the states have aggressively adopted this. Monday, governor declared the Oregon state of emergency. 24 hours later, shut all the schools, you might recall, and then the devastation of so many of our smaller businesses, restaurants, et cetera, related, that have been shut down. So we are, our hearts are broke for those people, and we're going to do everything we can through the SBA. You might recall the president set up a $50 billion appropriation, and I think Congress is well on their way to approving that. And that will be basically $1 billion on the average for each state. So we're going to help our businesses all we can so we, of course, get closer to the tourism season. So spread this information out. I had another friend say, panic is the opposite of, or usually a response to a lack of information. So the information's been out there, both the state good. And I don't want to go without mentioning Tree Ward and the OHA, other counties that we've been working with. I really think that within 30 days we're going to be on the downside of this. I know that might sound overly optimistic, but it's truly what I believe, and better days coming, and we'll learn greatly from this. So, Assessor Colin, or Sheriff Ward, did you have something either one of you wanted to offer this morning? You can go first, Sheriff. Commissioner Pash, how's our volume? Are you still doing okay?
Yeah, everything's fine other than the 40-second delay in the video.
Okay, so we need to turn his volume down just a little bit, Eric. Okay, Sheriff, thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Sorry feeling bad there, Commissioner Pash. I basically went through a sickness here, a couple weeks ago, feeling much better. But it was not the COVID-19. Commissioner Gold, you mentioned something about social media and things like that, and everybody out there hoarding a lot of the items out of the stores. There's no toilet paper. Thank goodness I got a cat at home, but He's self-cleaning, so it's no problem.
What's that got to do with it now? No.
But anyway, we've done a lot of different things with the sheriff's office and how we're doing our operation. Excuse me. We've been on conference calls daily with the jail command council, the enforcement command council, and talking about the governor's declaration and executive orders. What we've done is we've minimized a lot of things that people who were taken in to help. We're not doing fingerprinting for people who come in and like to get employment purposes. The concealed handgun licenses, we are continuing to do a little of this, the renewals of the concealed handgun license, since we don't have to have really direct contact. They can stay in the lobby. We're asking people who need to have law enforcement services, they come in, we'll still help them. We're going to let them know that if they're sick or showing any signs or symptoms, they'll have to leave, and we can contact them by phone. Again, like I say, I've shut down the substation in Harbor. We have a lot of elderly folks that come in and use that. I don't want to inadvertently spread anything. Our parole and probation officers are down there are limiting the number of people that they see. They're kind of doing their monitoring by phone at this point. We're not allowing any visitation in the jail at this point. Even the attorneys are coming through who normally would come into the back and into the attorney room and meet with their clients. They're all doing it through glass, and we're not seeing any problems that stem from that so far. We're doing a lot of the self-cleaning over there, the sanitizing, and we're just making sure that anybody that comes in, we screen them with a wand thermometer to make sure they don't have any type of temperatures if they do have to come in. But like I say, we're limiting who we arrest, or any agencies that arrest anybody. We're not taking anybody that's less than a A or B felonies or the Measure 11 crimes. We still take the mandatory arrest for the restraining order violations, the sex assaults, and the domestic violence. They'll still come in. But any warrants or any nuisance crimes, things like that, we're having our officers and asking the other agencies to issue cites in lieu of arrest. And most of those are going out past May 1st for the citations for appearance. And that's at the request of the circuit courts. They don't want anybody cited in prior to that because they're making a lot of changes over there. And we're following in right in line along with all the other sheriff's offices and jails in the state of Oregon. We figure if we don't do something to stay in line with them, and something, unforeseen happens and we maybe inadvertently spread, and we don't take the precautions for that, I don't want the ramifications of that afterwards. So we're doing our best that we can to limit the exposures and the spread. At that point, that's about all I got. I appreciate everybody else that's working hard. I know the cooperators around the county are pitching in and doing their part as well. That's about all I got to say.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thanks.
Questions? Mr. Pash? 40 seconds. Okay.
None.
Thank you.
No, it's not a 40-second delay on the phone, it's just a 40-second delay on the video, but
Okay.
you might have a 5-second delay if you ask me something because I'm taking the phone off of mute.
I understand. Thank you again. Assessor Cohen?
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. Jim Cohen, Curry County Assessor. I've been checking with other assessors around the state to see how, if they are adjusting their business operations. And one thing that seems to be consistently occurring is most offices that have responded seem to be trying to limit public contact in the office to by appointment only. And I think probably here at the Curry County Assessor's Office, what we're going to look to do is limit our business hours that we're open to the public. probably going to go back to a 9 to 4 schedule. We'll also be encouraging the public to make appointments so we can do their business with them. Much of the information that we get people coming in our doors for can be found on our webpage on the GIS assessor's information site. But if people still have other things that they feel like they need to come in for, we're certainly willing to make an appointment with them, have them come in and take care of their needs. We'll just, we're going to have to be practicing better cleaning around the office and social distancing as much as we can. It's important, I think, probably for all county departments that we continue to get our work done, because these are public services, and now it's going to have consequences later. One thing about this virus, it seems to me like conditions are changing, if not daily, if not hourly, certainly daily. And I think that the last set of instructions that we got from Director of Operations Smelser before she left, I think that's probably already dated information.
It is.
And I think you had an excellent idea yesterday, Commissioner Boyce, when you suggested that county department heads and elected officials maybe meet by phone. I think you suggested maybe as much as 3 times a week. Could be more as quickly as this thing is changing.
True.
To where we can get together and talk about what our business operations should be looking like and how we're dealing with this. It's important not only to the public that we keep them as safe as possible, but to our own employees. We want to keep them as safe as possible because we still need to get the work done. And I'm very concerned about that. If coronavirus were to sweep through the assessor's and tax collector's office, that could delay us who knows how long in collecting taxes next year for the districts. And we still have a third trimester. By trimester might also be the very people that are in the service industries that are suffering the most right now, or stand to suffer the most right now. So we've got some real difficult times ahead. I hope, I want to take your optimistic viewpoint that we'll be past the worst of this in 30 days, and I hope we are. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to come up here and let the public know where we'll be headed.
Thank you. Questions?
I'm just impressed with what you've been doing. I heard from the recorder also as far as measures they're going to be taking, and they're looking to other counties for models for doing that. So
Thank you,
I think that's good.
Commissioner Pash?
I'm good, thank you.
Commissioner Gold, we probably should do amended agenda items real quickly here.
Right.
You first?
I would like to put the BOPTA property tax appeals on the consent agenda. Why don't you just make that I? And also, I would like to add, under discussion items, getting possible part-time employees for janitorial/sanitizing. So under discussion, make that item,
9E?
yeah, 9E, yeah.
Okay.
Those were the only things I had.
Thank you again. Commissioner Pash, agenda item amendments?
So I'm clear though, Commissioner Gold, you said you wanted to use 8A and change it to 7I?
No. Make 9A and put that to 8. I guess it would be I.
So for Commissioner Pash, there's 2 agendas. There's a revised agenda and an original agenda, and I think 8 and 9 might have changed on.
Yeah, I'm looking at the
revised.
amended one
Yeah.
right now.
Commissioner Pash, if, okay, the 5, the declaration is declaring the emergency. We're going to get to that right immediately after public comment if the board chooses. The only thing I have on the agenda amendments, I just have a couple quick questions for Roadmaster Christensen. Move 8C on the day wireless radio project to right under quarterly reports 7C. Like I said, I just have a couple quick questions. That's all I have, Commissioner Gold.
That's fine. I move that we approve the agenda. Oops, there's another one.
Sorry, thanks,
Excuse
Mr.
me.
Chair. That's okay. I would like to
I
add,
mean to overlook you, sir.
thank you, just add an executive session topic, 192-660, sub 2, I believe it is H, which is litigation or pending and likely to be filed, and then also 192-660, sub 2, sub D, labor negotiations, to talk about the collective bargaining agreements and the impact of the possible employment steps we may need to take with respect to the COVID on that. So
So I'll second that motion with those amendments. Commissioner Gold, if that's okay with you.
That's fine.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gold,
Aye.
Vice Chair Boyce,
Yes.
Chair Pash,
Aye.
motion carried unanimously.
First on public comments, please, would be Mary Rowe.
If I could, Commissioner, before this vote starts,
Yes, certainly. Go ahead.
yes, before Ms. Rose starts, she did call me last week and asked me if she could speak for 4 minutes instead of 3, and I told her that would be okay. She has been there a while.
Certainly. Thank you. Welcome, Mary.
Okay.
Just the microphone there on the right, just a little bit to you.
I'm not good at that. I can't see, so
Okay.
I'm out of the side. I think they're pretty good. Thank you, though. I'm Mary Rowe. I am concerned about the health and safety of those who are homeless in our entire community. I asked our new public health director and our emergency services director for information about our county's plan to prevent and, if necessary, deal with the coronavirus with respect to our homeless population, given that our homeless have fewer tools to protect themselves and are more susceptible to infections, have no real way to quarantine themselves, and move from place to place, which could spread a virus. Neither director had my requested information. I have been concerned for the past few years about the spread of contagious diseases in the homeless population and about any resulting spread to the larger community. I'm getting feedback. Am I supposed to get of an MSW who advocates for the homeless and has done street outreach to them. Most people don't know what social workers do. In 1926, Harry Hopkins, then director of the New York Tuberculosis Society, who went on to become an architect of Roosevelt's New Deal, wrote, quote, "The fields of social work and public health are inseparable. Social work is interwoven in the whole fabric of the public health movement and has directly influenced it at every point," unquote. Social workers have defined and addressed social determinants of health for over a century and a half. I also used to be a licensed healthcare provider. June 18th, 2019, USA Today by Chris Woodward, quote, "Experts said growing homeless populations are increasingly susceptible to outbreaks of contagious diseases, including typhus, hepatitis A, and Shigella. Police officers and city employees have caught such diseases. Hepatitis outbreaks in several cities were traced to homelessness. There were many deaths from this, spread mainly through fecal contact. Last year, Seattle had higher levels of strep and Shigella. Public health officials tied both to homelessness. Peter Bielison, Director of Health Services for Sacramento, says the homeless are more susceptible to disease. It more quickly spreads among them with more severe cases, partly due to a lack of hygiene resources. Our county has a responsibility during the coronavirus emergency and declared lack of housing state of emergency to provide help to our homeless. Needs are hand washing stations and porta potties, garbage cans in harbor, track phones filled with contacts and set up to receive county alerts by volunteers, masks, gloves, emergencies. All Care and Advanced Health could help fund it. Summer has the info. Designated camps with porta potties, hand washing stations, dumpsters, and security. Outreach to homeless by experienced employees and volunteers to educate, assess health issues, and provide survival tools. Curry County no longer has a shelter nor safety nets. 94145 5th Place, Gold Beach, which currently houses Oregon DHS, which wants to move, is for sale. $2 million asking price. It could be an emergency weather shelter with the inexpensive addition of 2 showers and fencing on 2 sides. The parking lot is currently under police camera surveillance and could provide a safe place for those living in vehicles to park at night. We could ask an experienced organization like St. Vincent de Paul to rent and run the facility, or Curry currently has an experienced shelter worker who is available. Please have a workshop with advocates and service providers for the homeless to discuss this issue. Thank you.
Mary, thank you. Questions, Commissioner Cole?
No, she covered it well. She did a
Mr.
good job.
Pash?
No, I'm good.
Mary, are you going to leave that for the record that we can put?
I'll drop off a copy later today, and I can also give you some information. I've gathered a lot of information to accompany this, for instance, the name of the realtor and some 9 places that I think would be good for track phones to be available, 3 places at each city for homeless people that I think would be the easiest for them to get it. I've already talked to the head of DHS, and she said that she would, she likes the idea of DHS being one of the places to provide track phones. Part of the problem is that a lot of homeless people don't have about 30 days to get one. They are eligible to get Lifeline phones, but it takes about 30 days.
Okay. All right.
Anyway.
Thank you again. Be sure we get that copy. David Barnes? Okay. So that's your topic of interest today. Thank you. George Rhodes?
First of all, I'd like to thank the Board of Commissioners for allowing me to come before you today and address this issue. I'm going to address it from a selfish perspective as a businessman in our community. My business currently pays approximately $10,000 a year in taxes to the community, and because of the governor's shutdown, we'll be unable to continue to perform the necessary tasks that would enable us to keep our doors open. We have currently 22 employees. Those employees are in a situation where they're not sure of their future because I can't address their future. The current Oregon statute that declares the state of emergency is not appropriate to address the needs of the SBA funding. So I'm here today to encourage this board to approve your declaration emergency and request that the governor put the right one forward so that businesses in Curry County can access these SBA funds. Thank you very much.
Would you mind standing for just a second? You said the right declaration. Isn't it a different declaration that represents the SBA process and the $50 billion that the president's talking about? I mean, we're hearing everything from every citizen is going to get $1,000 to low interest loans, all the above. But I do recognize, and this is a little lengthy here and a little bit more detailed than we need, but this is the process that goes through from the county levels, and I know some of the other counties are on this, but I agree with you, it is a different declaration through the State House to the federal government.
That's correct.
Yes.
The declaration that the county files is useless unless the state also files.
Mm-hmm.
We can't access the funds as business people without both actions. So it's important that the governor's office also file the proper paperwork, and I know that you have a copy of that, and you also have some copies of other declarations that have been prepared by other counties. I know that Washington, Clackamas, Clatsop, those are 3 of the counties that I know that have already approved their declaration. some of the counties that neighbor Idaho are eligible simply because of their proximity to Idaho, which has also filed the proper state declaration of emergency. As of yesterday, Curry County was not eligible for any of the emergency funding.
And that's an excellent point. We all know a variety of businesses that are greatly impacted by this, and so we've got our homework before us, and we can't waste, in talking to you on the phone yesterday, a reminder, we can't waste 1 minute on this. It is a little bit confusing, however, to the public, because here's the CLATSUP, and it's interesting that we both come up with this, but most of the counties are proceeding this way. The declaration of emergency we're going to work on today is basically to the point when we exhaust all of our county resources. That's the qualification, and we went through that with the fires and the floods and, in the last 2 or 3 years. So, but this is something I agree we need to get on right away to clearly understand the differences. I think we'll get some help. We'll pull our people together, and really appreciate you bringing this to our attention, and absolutely a wise reminder.
Well, as you said, it doesn't just impact the restaurant industry, it impacts the service industry as a whole. I have a friend that has a B&B, and she indicated to me just last week she had 25 cancellations in one day. Mostly people that would visit Curry County from overseas, because that's the primary business that she does. So, I think if you look at the number of restaurants and the number of service providers in our community, you'd find that the economic is significant to the community if we're unable to provide not only the employment but the revenue source. Our revenue flows down to many different entities, CTR, the
Yes.
East Curry Co-op, the gas company, the water district, the power district, the sewer district. All of those entities benefit from the service industry, and if we're not able to survive this, it's going to have a huge, huge economic impact. You mentioned the fires. That's one of the things that's making this so difficult. Many of these businesses haven't recovered from those fires
Excellent
over the
point.
last 2 years. So this funding is just basically bridge funding to help us get through to a point in time where the industry in Oregon recovers. We've been struggling for a number of years now, and if we don't have access to this funds, it's going to be critical to every community in Oregon, not just Curry County.
Couldn't agree more. Thanks for making the trip here. Mr. Gold?
I just have one comment. I came across some information yesterday about what they're doing in Northern California, and California is helping small businesses. So I did forward that information to the governor's office, asking that she, look at that and see what we can do about getting some help here in Oregon for our small businesses.
Well, I think that's really a great scenario. I just don't see that the resource that the state has or the county has is significant enough to really impact what's needed here. So
we're going to have to go to the feds.
Yeah, it's got to be a much bigger community that gets involved in this than just Curry County.
Oh, I agree. Yeah.
Council Huddle.
Commissioner Rhodes, thanks for coming and
Well, thank you.
making us aware of this issue. I was trying to take notes when you were talking. As you know, we're going to be taking a comprehensive look at our emergency declaration and make sure we get the right language in there. And you're saying that we should request the governor make a further declaration or amend her declaration to include triggering the federal help for the SBA. Is there any, and I'm not sure if it was some of the material we saw here, is there any magic language or federal executive order numbers we can refer to when we make this request of the governor, make her job easier? And if you need to get that to me after the meeting or during some break, that's fine. But do you have any numbers or, executive order from president or any of that kind of stuff we can refer to?
Yes, sir, there is information available. I believe that most of that information, as I recall, is covered in the documents that you have here. It
Okay.
refers to all of the different legislative requirements for the governor to declare the emergency. We also have an old declaration back from when we had the tsunami years ago that went to the governor that also includes that language.
And the sinkhole as well, I think.
Yeah, possibly
Yeah.
the sinkhole as well.
Okay.
But I'm not sure, currently, I've been out of office for a long time, thankfully. So I'm not so sure what the current requirements are, but as I understand it, they're pretty much the same.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
We're going to be calling on you some more. And I also have a document here from Economic Development Coordinator Summer Madison. She worked on, put out Monday afternoon, which are 3 pages of very good information that she's currently working to get to all of our companies in the county. And it is the sequence and at least the starting process initially, what they need to do and how we can help them get on board here. So you'll be getting a copy of that as well.
Okay, and I also understand that the county may need some numbers from local businesses to help support this, and certainly I would be more than happy to try to reach out to some of the local business owners to pull that information together.
Commissioner Gold?
One other thing that I think is very important as we go through this process, that you log those losses daily and so forth that you're having, so that when you have to fill out all the paperwork to get the funds, you're going to be prepared.
Well, that's a good point. Anyone that in business here that's not using a point of sales type of system or some accounting systems, QuickBooks or whatever, should maintain a really good record.
Right.
Some of the B&Bs and the smaller businesses, it might be very difficult for them, but daily records, cancellation records, volume records, cost. We've maintained a service profile of just takeout food for the last couple of we've had just a skeleton crew on, but right now we probably won't be able to sustain that because the cost of even managing the resource to have the employees there is not significant enough to cover the sales that we're doing. It's really hard to pay $500 a day in labor costs and do $300 in sales. That makes no sense to continue to do that.
Totally understood, but really important to keep those records.
Absolutely.
Council Huddle, did you have anything additional?
Not at this time.
Commissioner Pash?
Well, I just wanted to comment and say that I think Mnuchin was supposed to get some direction today, was going to meet with the House. I know they kind of rushed that bill through, and they were going to try and clarify some of the muddy water on that and give more direction to the governors in each respective state as to how that process will work and how they will need to apply. But from what I understand, all applications will go through the federal government, not state governments. But they're supposed to clarify some of that today, so we might want to pay attention to news feeds on that from finance and also from the SBA.
Yes, Commissioner, there are, the websites are up and running with the SBA. The problem there again is you get to the point where it asks if your state, what state you're in and what county you're in, and when you put that information in, you get a reply that they're not eligible for those funds at this point because the county and the state haven't declared the proper state of emergency to access those funds. So the system is set up where that business people can access the website and the application quickly. It just is not, the information that they have doesn't allow us to complete the application. And I've also heard that as of yesterday, there were issues with unemployment because the state unemployment website had kind of crashed because of the burden that it can't handle.
You're talking about Oregon?
Yes, Oregon. the state of Oregon unemployment. We have, many people in Curry County that will be able to draw unemployment for a limited period of time, but they can't even get through on the website at this point. Some of my staff has, called me and said, we haven't been able to even fill out the applications for unemployment.
Tell your people, actually I learned from Association of Oregon Counties last week that there's an effort, if they haven't already completed it, to forego the waiting week for new unemployment claims. So also, I'm going to be calling on you to see if you might consider heading up a task force, if the board could put that together. And just on, I think your knowledge of the county, your knowledge of this whole SBA federal process and how we might recover from this would be very beneficial to numerous companies, businesses, our employers. So I'll even personally put gas in your car to come back and forth from Brookings.
Yeah. No, that won't be necessary. I have plenty of time these days.
Yeah, I know.
Time is not an essence or an issue for me, given the circumstances.
Well, I appreciate you might consider that if we can put that together as soon
I
as
definitely
possible.
would consider that.
And you'd be welcome to come to our department head, and that's going to be an open deal to people, so we can get as much input and counsel as possible. Thank you again.
Well, as you said, fear is just a situation that turns into panic when people don't have the proper information. So,
I heard that from somebody this morning.
yeah. So if we can, the better we can inform everybody in our community, the less fear we have. Panic is where people go buy toilet paper and not food. So we want to make sure we're got people the proper information so that they can make good decisions.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Gordon Clay, please.
Gordon Clay, Chair of the Curry County Suicide Awareness and Prevention Council, Brookings, Oregon. Question: what are boys less likely to do than girls? Boys have been brought up in a culture to stuff feelings. Big boys don't cry, handle it, don't ask for help, man up, and the messages go on. So when it comes to self-injury, they go numb. Why should we be concerned? People often keep a secret, but the urge to self-injure isn't uncommon. Over 2 million Americans currently engage in self-injury. While the target groups are adolescents and young adults, people of all ages practice self-injury. Myth: one of the misconceptions is that only females do it. While girls 14 to 17 are hospitalized 4 times more often than boys, 30 to 40% of people who self-injure are males, with the highest segment being white male adolescents. Self-injury means hurting yourself on purpose. For boys, the most common method is hitting themselves or an object like a wall or cigarette burns. The most common among girls is cutting with a sharp object or pulling out hair or picking at wounds that prevent healing. Myth: people who self-injure enjoy the pain or can't feel it. Self-injury most often hurts. Sometimes feeling the pain is the whole point, to reconnect with their own body or just to feel something. Myth: self-injury is untreatable. Although it can be difficult to control or stop, most people are able to stop at some point because it's most often used as a coping mechanism. However, the practice typically does not stop until the individual has other methods to cope and is fully ready to stop. Myth: self-injury is a suicide attempt. Most studies find that self-injury is often undertaken as a means to avoid suicide. What is important is to get a handle on it before the pattern gets well established, since 70% of those with a history of self-injury have attempted suicide at least once.
Gordon? We're running a real fast meeting today.
Okay. I didn't have 3 minutes?
Yes, you do.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. Myth: there's nothing I can do. There are many ways to help. Instead of scolding or looking down on someone, be as supportive and understanding as you can to let them know you care. A slightly different subject. Some people in your world might be feeling anxious, be physically unwell, or concerned about their well-being. At a time we're being asked to physically distance ourselves from one another, you can definitely be a listening ear and a virtual shoulder to learn on. When you connect, consider the tone and language they are using. Are they posting more or less often? Are they answering your calls? Are they communicating as you would expect? Trust your gut and ask, are you okay? Listen to it with an open mind. Ask what you can do to help, and don't let them isolate. Thank you.
Thank you, Gordon. Next item, declaration, emergency within Curry County and requesting a governor's declaration of state of emergency. Mr. Dumeyer, are you first?
I am. So good morning. For the record, again, Jeremy Dumeyer, Curry County Emergency Manager. Sheree Ward, Public Health Administrator, will be joining me shortly. So real quick, on February 28th of this year, the first presumptive positive case of coronavirus COVID-19 presented itself in the state of Oregon. On Wednesday, March 5th, while I was attending training at the Center for Domestic Preparedness in Anniston, Alabama, I activated the Emergency Operations Center by virtual method as we began to lean forward in this response. We've been working with our partners, local, state, and federal, as we respond to the COVID-19 situation. As of this morning, as of 8:30 this morning, there are 65 presumptive positive cases in the state of Oregon. 21 of those are in Washington County, 15 in Lynn County. Neighboring to Curry County, Douglas has 1 case, Jackson County has 2, Klamath County has 1. There are no positive cases in Delaware County, Coos County, or Curry County. However, the EOC is actively working on this response. As of this morning, 14 counties have submitted emergency declarations. More counties to follow. Before the board is a declaration of emergency. I am asking that the declaration be signed by the board today so I can submit it to the state. I've heard some comments today so far from the public and from commissioners. I want to make some things clear. The state of Oregon has declared a state of emergency regarding to the COVID-19 response. The federal government has declared a state of emergency regarding the COVID-19 response. By declaring this local emergency, we are falling in line with that. In addition, it does open us up to the federal and state resources. Now, we are receiving assistance from the state right now for resource requests. But in terms of things such as SBA, this declaration will enable us to get SBA loans for businesses. It will enable us to better access larger, the CurryOEM.com website. That is the Curry Office of Emergency Management, CurryOEM.com. On that website, I am updating that daily with the latest information on COVID-19 as it relates to Curry County. There are forms on that site for businesses to fill out for the SBA process. There are links directly to the Center for Disease Control, the Oregon Health Authority, Curry County Public Health, and as I understand, the governor has launched her website. I will link that in today as well. So that is a one-stop shop, if you will, for information as it relates to this response. So, again, there is a declaration before the board. It has been worked on up until last night to make sure any changes are current. Of course, this is an evolving situation, as we well know. With that, Sheree, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Sheree Ward, Public Health Administrator. I know this is a trying time for our global, national, and for our community especially. I do want to thank our community. as much as everybody thinks we are not prepared, it is amazing how a lot of our community members are prepared. I can tell you we just recently got activated in regards to our Joint Information Center. We are starting to try and get some information out there together so we can all have the same message. In regards to the public health infrastructure, we are requesting resources through the state as well as working with our community partners. We just held our first cooperators meeting yesterday in regards to a conference call. So those cooperator meetings are with agencies, local agencies, schools, school superintendents, trying to get us better prepared in the needs and resources of what everybody in our community needs. We are actually vigilantly working on that. As we know, we are low on staff. So at this point in juncture, we are tasking some of our staff in public health that we have in regards to getting together and trying to work with our cooperators in regards to getting better resources posted onto our public health website and county website as well. And that is, if anybody is willing to step up to the plate and want to help us out with resources, that maybe a resource list that they may have already had, I am open to them sending it to us so we can go ahead and get that uploaded onto the website as well. I did want to clarify the Oregon, the governor's website. It is www.oregon.gov/pages/coronavirus 2020-ASPX, and that is the site that is going to give you some information in regards to those small business loans, as that emergency manager was speaking about, that he's going to be updating onto that website as well.
Is that going to be on Jeremy's
Yes.
website?
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah. So we are working diligently and with the hospital, along with our clinics, along with all of the other partners. I did want to let you know in regards to services for public health. Public health is not doing testing. The hospitals and the clinics are doing the testings. As for WIC services, we are still operating our women, infants, and children services right now. Every other Wednesday, we are trying to secure office space. So as you know, we went through a infrastructure change. So we are still trying to provide those services. We are working with the state right now in regards to alternative plans in place should people feel not comfortable coming in to meet with our WIC coordinator on doing things via Skype, so we can make sure that those services are not interrupted, because Women, Infants, and Children program cannot be interrupted, especially during this time. Women still need their food, their, everything to work with their families. So I can tell you right now, our office hours right now is operating in Port Orford today at the old Umpqua building, and we're partnering over there in the conference room today. We are still trying to get that infrastructure in place, so we have not had a lap in services as of yet, so I'm really happy about that. We are doing the best we can to provide those services to our community, but it may end up looking a little bit different, and so if those hours do change or anything does change, it will be updated on our website, as well as how we can better, work with those programs. Environmental health services at the moment is downstairs, and they are actually getting their hands pretty full with all of the different requirements that is happening in regards to shutdowns. So there are some drafts in place with the state, and we are going to be working on those avenues as well as how to better assist the restaurants, RV services, pools, all of those inspections. So it is a lot on the plate, but we do have resources and able to tap into those if we need to. So I wanted to add.
Commissioner Gold?
I just have one question. As you are collaborating with these various agencies, is there any way we can get the information out to the public so they know what services are available?
And that's what we are actually working on right now. We are getting a list together and trying to get that updated as quick as possible. I'll follow my sword. It's been one heck of a ride.
Oh, I
And
understand.
we are doing everything we can. It's great that OEM, Emergency Services, has definitely got a page. So we are working with that. We're going to update his page and then definitely get our county page updated as the same time as quick as possible.
Perfect.
Okay?
Yeah, I think we just need to have one place where people can get the information and get it
Agreeable.
quickly. Okay. Thank you so much.
So if you two wouldn't mind, stay up there for questions a little bit. Yes,
Commissioner Boyce, there is the link on the big screen for Curry OEM. Should be bottom right. I think that's it, the Chrome symbol. Below that one.
Oh, that's so pretty.
that looks like the AOC one. Did you update that today? Good job, by the way, John Jesuit. Did you update that today, that would come in this morning?
No, actually, I have Miss Erin Johnson from Realtor Design Studio that is managing my site for me.
Okay.
So from our Curry County's just homepage of our website, we have key links, and the first key link says COVID-19 link, and that actually takes you to the Oregon
You'll
Health
scroll down
Authority.
here.
If you go to the Curry County website,
Yeah, it
That's
was
today, good.
So if you scroll down.
Yeah.
you will go to Departments to Emergency Management, and you will go to this page.
Okay, so from our website, our COVID-19 link on our key links on our homepage takes you to the OHA, not to your emergency management. So we might need to coordinate our web page, links so that we're
Good
only
idea.
going to one. Anyway, that's,
Commissioner Pash, are you able, oops, excuse me, I didn't mean to cut you off there. Counsel.
Well,
I was
I
done.
just want to
Okay.
comment that I hope the public understands what Ms. Ward's been up against. Not only getting handed back public health and having to set all that up and deal with the state on everything she's had to deal with on that, but now we've got this handed to us, and I just want to say thank you to you, Ms. Ward, for your staff and your time, all the work that you've done. I'm sure you could probably use a good week's sleep. Kudos to you guys for doing all you do, and all I've got is great reports about what you're doing, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioners, and thank you, Board, and thank you, community. I'm doing this because I care about our community. I could easily go home and sleep. I really could, but I really do care about the community and what's best for the community. So
Thank you so much.
Well, it shows. So, Commissioner Pash, thank you. So, we kind of need to do a little bit of a workshop here. There's been a variety of changes to this document in just the last 24 hours. And I want to ask some questions on that, and I'm hoping you can help me. The first question I have, Mr. Dumeyer, is it your view that the state of Oregon or states in general in the U.S. will not be doing a secondary SBA-related emergency declaration?
No, it's not necessary. I'll reference for you two different disasters that Curry County has experienced in the past year, both of the February storm and the April flooding events. Both those events we submitted similar declarations for, and the state and federal government also submitted declarations very similar in fashion. SBA was available for those events. When there is a state and federally recognized disaster, SBA is opened up as long as your county is either directly affected and or is directly adjoining another county that has declared.
Thank you. Would it be your view, and not that it's that big a deal, I think any progressive action that we can take, though, especially a small county in Oregon with almost the point of how it might be necessary to compete for some of these funds, I'm wondering if, and I'm going to be working with other counties, of course, and you and others, would it be, in your view, inappropriate, appropriate to file a second emergency declaration to the state and watch what they're doing, even to the point of perhaps encouraging the state
It's not
to do a
necessary.
secondary?
One declaration from the county is sufficient to enact a local emergency, which puts the state on notice that we have a situation that we are dealing with. The state, having filed their declaration of emergency, They have put this federal government on notice, and the federal government has taken that notice and has filed their own emergency. So the process has already been circled at this point. We are still in the response phase of the process. But in terms of SBA, once this document gets submitted to the state, our local emergency has been declared, and we are eligible.
Okay, I'll get right to you, Council Huddle. But what you've completed as of last night, is, if I understand correctly, does not mention SBA.
It does not need to.
Well, that's your opinion, and you probably are right. But my concern is, I don't want to drop the ball here, okay? This is just specific, as have been our Curry County emergency declarations in the past, have been specific to when the resources run out, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And
So I'm
again,
going to
that's
ask you to
the
research.
That's the same as the February and the April storms, which again, with those same declarations, SBA was opened up.
Okay. So, Council Huddle?
Thanks, Commissioner Boyce. And after former Commissioner Rhodes spoke, I did go on to the SBA website, and I was asking former Commissioner Rhodes for any kind of triggering language and whatnot. And I know Emergency Management Director Dumeyer mentioned past emergencies, but what Commissioner Rhodes was talking about was new legislation since those emergencies, and specific to the coronavirus emergency that we're in. That I don't know that the past declarations, I wouldn't want to presume, I suppose, Commissioner Boyce. And so I understand what Emergency Director Dumeyer is saying, that it's not necessary. However, I don't think it would do any harm to add to our declaration a request that the governor make a request, because when I went to the SBA's website, so far they said only the state of Montana had made the request under the specific economic injury disaster loan assistance under the Coronavirus Preparedness and Response Supplement Appropriations Act. So I think those would be the two type of phraseologies I would suggest, and think that, again, whether it's necessary or not, I don't see any harm in us including that in our resolution up to the governor, so that we are alerting them just in case there is anything else. It's just added language. If it doesn't need to be there, that's okay. It's called surplusage, but just in case, to trigger the Coronavirus Preparedness and Response Supplement Appropriations Act, which certainly wouldn't apply to a tsunami from 2018, or it'd be different. So again, I think I don't see any harm in adding that to our resolution.
Great. Commissioner Gold, would you leave?
I agree with Council Huddle. I think we need to be prepared. That's what this is all about, so.
Commissioner Rhodes, would you mind standing up with Mr. Dumeyer? Because I'm determined I'm going to get the two of you together. I think you're both very knowledgeable with past experience and training and all the above. And I just wonder, if we followed Council Huddle's recommendation there, do you feel like with the research you've done, that would clarify and contribute to the best possible foot we can move forward on protecting our businesses and getting them assistance?
I do, and the reason for that is understanding the bureaucracy that we deal with on a day-to-day basis in government. The normal business guy, he's going to go online and just, take it for granted whatever they tell him is what he needs. Maybe E is a proper link, but most business guys are going to go to the SBA website, and they're going to get the information that Mr. Huddle just said. They're going to go, they're going to say an expletive word and say, there's the government working for us again, couldn't get to those resources. So I think any language that can be included that would help make sure that every effort that any individual makes to access these funds is as simple and as easy as possible. And if that means just going to the SBA website, being able to put that you're from Oregon and that you're from Curry County, and they're going to let you get onto that website and finish your application, then to me, it's a no-brainer. Put that language in there.
Excellent insight. I wish I could hear you say exactly that again. Maybe we'll get you another chance. Your thoughts on that, EMC Dumeyer?
Well, it's very easy for us to add economic injury to the declaration. We'll go ahead and do that.
Specific to SBA and what our long-term goals are there?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So we all seem to be on the same page here. Any other questions? Commissioner Pash,
Yes.
did you have any comments on, it looks like we're going to combine, at least for now, the two aspects of this county emergency declaration that we're sending to the governor's office?
Right.
Now, Commissioner Boyce, I want to interject real quick if I can. Do you have the current declaration? Because that is the one that was written on Monday.
I do, but I got it late this morning, so I'm not sure why all the changes, because basically, wait, I want to hear from Commissioner
Again,
Pash,
this
and
is
then we'll come to you. Commissioner Pash, go ahead, please.
Well, I just wanted to comment, if you want to add those extra things into there, I don't see any harm in it. I will say, having dealt with it in the past, the SBA and FEMA, in most cases, are automatically opened up to states and counties for disaster relief as soon as you declare. So it'll not only open up the SBA, but it'll open up FEMA to the community as well.
And that is correct.
Anything else, Commissioner Pash?
That's all right now.
Thank you.
So again, the declaration that you have on the screen right now, that was written on Monday. As we know, this is an emerging situation, and it has been discussed widely, the need for various changes in it. So in the highlighted section, I want to point this out. The whereas, the changes on this include, whereas this declaration is in support of COVID-19 public health response, and Curry County residents are encouraged to follow Oregon Health Authority, OHA, and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, guidelines. That has been amended to the current declaration. Also, further down on the whereas, the governor has declared a state of emergency in support of the COVID-19 public health response and has imposed social distancing measures. So those are the two key changes that have been worked on in particular to this. And again, we will go ahead and add the economic injury aspect to this declaration before it is signed and sent up to the OEM.
So I'm just reading this that I got this morning. The changes you made, basically what I submitted to the board, Director Smelzer, on Friday, okay? This is what we had Monday, and the second line is why I was a bit alarmed on it is not a public health emergency. That was number one. Number two, the commissioners are not included down here at the bottom in this process, in this long-term objective. And then I'm not sure why we're requesting a governor's declaration of state of emergency. Maybe we are right here at this point now to where we do need to declare another one. So we haven't. I'm sorry. I am very confusing here. My apologies, Coordinator Dumeier. So we have this connecting with the state, right?
Correct. We are going to submit
on
this to the state.
On the subtitle here, okay, and we're explain to the public the language we're changing here when you mentioned that otherwise go on with daily lives and
It's no longer in there.
Okay, thank you. Why did you remove that?
Because again, this is an evolving situation.
So just since Monday, about this time?
When this was drafted and submitted Monday at noon, the governor had not given her presentation, and again, this has evolved changes. As it is with emergency management, you're always flexible. You're always having to adapt to what comes up. So again, that line is no longer valid. This document you have on the screen is not valid.
So you believe we do have a public health emergency?
I am not going to say that we do have a public health emergency. Again, we do not have any positive cases of COVID-19 in Curry County, Coos County, or Del Norte County. However, we are leaning forward in preparation for response.
Okay, we know that the governor has declared a state of emergency, closing the schools, businesses, everything.
April 28th, that is correct.
Okay, and you're right that her declaration come out 3 o'clock on Monday, I think.
And I will say, Commissioner Boyce,
Yes, go ahead.
the governor, from what I understand, declared Curry County as a low-risk county.
But we don't have to accept that, correct, Commissioner? Necessarily?
I'm not saying we do. letting you know what she declared.
Okay, Commissioner Gold?
I think you did the right thing in eliminating that, but you also added, we are encouraged to follow Oregon Health Authority, OHA, and Centers for Disease Control and Prevention guidelines. And that helps if we become a public health emergency.
It also helps, I agree, and thank you for that. I also believe it helps that in the preparedness and prevention side of it. And again, those direct links are on the Curry OEM webpage, so people can go there and follow those guidelines as those do evolve even currently.
And they're going to be changing.
Yes.
So we're covering it.
Yes.
So Commissioner Gold, did you get a copy of this morning via email, or was that from Staff Jesuit?
I got copies from Staff Jesuit, but I also gave everybody a copy here.
Thank you. That's how I first received it. I appreciate that. Commissioner Pash, any other questions?
The only other thing I see that you might want to look into, because Staff Jesuit on this, is the second page is only a signature page. You may want to label these as page 1 of 2, page 2 of 2, and or increase or decrease the font so that it's part of the resolution sits on both pages so that it's clear that it's the sewer page.
Commissioner Pash, bottom of page 1, the main paragraph where it says, right in the middle there, directs the Curry County Office of Emergency Management and Curry County Public Health. Do you want the Curry Board of Commissioners included in that sentence, understanding our responsibilities?
I mean, we can add the Curry County BOC as well, but I actually think the language in this needs to be changed. One other thing I was going to add before we moved on is, you know, the sheriff is, you know, he's the controlling interest for the safety of our county, and I'm saying that only for lack of a better term. But the sheriff is the, you know, he's got his pulse on the entire county all the time. So I think a lot of this stuff should be handled in cooperation or in coordination with the sheriff's department, so that he's not exhausting resources somewhere in the county that is not needed, that some, you know, emergency management might be taken care of, or public health is already taken care of. So, you know, I don't know, changing that language somehow to say that, you know, in coordination with the sheriff's department, and just keeping the sheriff up to date, because whether it's John Ward or our next sheriff, for something else, and I know this only covers COVID, but, you know, the sheriff, he knows where the resources are in the county, and he knows where they're needed, and that will help give him direction if he's kind of, you know, the go-to person to give information.
Very well said. Agreed. And Commissioner Gold, did you have something?
I just wanted to say the commissioners are basically over you, but you are the ones that are going to be feeding us information, our emergency management and health administrator. And I think it's important that we use your expertise. We as commissioners, quite frankly, don't have that expertise, and we need to be getting information from you so that we can make wise decisions for the public.
So Commissioner Pash, do you agree with what Commissioner Gold just said, that we don't have, why are we here if we don't have any expertise or common sense logic in our responsibility here? What are your thoughts on that? And then I'm going to go to Emergency Management Coordinator Dumeier.
Well, two things real quick. It is 10:20, and I know we have, there are state rules that we have to follow on a break, just for your knowledge, Commissioner Boyce. But to answer your question, I would say, you know, me as a commissioner, and I would hope the entire board, is that, you know, we're not the boss of anything. What we are is a group of people that have been elected by the citizens to do what we think is the best thing for the citizens. And what I've always said in my life is, I like department heads to run the department. I like people that are the experts in their field to run their fields, and give us a bunch, if we can help them, give us the information that they need so that if they need a change, that's what I think commissioners are for, is to do more of that than we are to make public decisions to try and, you know, subvert or go around department heads and what in case, especially in case like this.
So you just used the word subvert. So you are not in favor, that surprises me, because all the other well, not all of them, but most of the other counties put the responsibility solely on the commissioners, and that's not to in any way imply that there isn't a serious respect and dependency on the people that are representing us. So I take it from that you are not in favor after, that would be the fourth line after Curry County Public Health, adding and the Board of Commissioners to take all necessary steps. Is that correct?
Just stand by, let me read the line one more time.
Thank you.
Well, and if I may, as he's viewing that, so in terms of the sheriff, he is a cooperator in our process, of course, and so he is kept in the loop. He is part of our meetings, and he has those resources, as was mentioned. So again, he is one of the cooperators, as is the health district, as are the firefighters, as are the EMS volunteers and such. In terms of the Board of Commissioners, I'll put this very bluntly, you are the policymakers. And you guys are to be informed as it informs policy for the county. It is my job, it is Cherie's job to be the boots on the ground, to be the ones the county commissioners in here as it relates to this paragraph, because again, you're the policy, you're not the boots on the ground. And I apologize if that is counter to what you're saying, what you want, but you are the policymaker, and we need you to enact policy, not the response.
So that disturbs you. Okay, so I understand that.
Well, again, that's
Commissioner
based
Pash,
on
did you have something else you wanted to add, or you were going to review there real quickly?
Yeah, I did. I think if I were going to ask anyone else to name to put in this, I would say it would be our Director of Operations, because she has ongoing relationship with public health and emergency management. She's brought up to almost daily on the situation around the county. And at that point, if that person, whether it's Mr. Melzer or whoever, determines that it's something that is important for the Board of Commissioners to deal with immediately, she can contact us and give us the information, and we can call a meeting if it's necessary.
Yes, please come up, Commissioner Gold. What did I say? Excuse me. Sorry, Commissioner
I think
Gold.
you want to look at the resolution. The emergency powers are actually granted to the Board of Commissioners by the ORS that's stated here. So you can't change the ORS. The Board of Commissioners doesn't have that authority. So what you have to do is the resolution has to include the language that allows for the resolution to be appropriate, and that's given by the ORS. So what you want to do is, if you change this language, you have to go back and create a resolution that's not based on the creation by the ORS 401.305. The other thing I would suggest is when you do look at this resolution and finally get it solved, is that you designate signature authority either to the vice chair, or if the chair is going to be back, to the chair, so that you don't have to run down all the commissioners to get it signed. That's how important this is to me. You want to get this paperwork done, get it to the governor's office as quickly as possible.
So stay there if you would. Council Huddle, so just some minor changes that I think we can all accept. How could we record that? Could Staff Jesuit fulfill that task here? And I think we might just be talking about two. And that's basically a reference to SBA and having this be a dual-purpose emergency declaration.
There
Right.
again, whatever the purpose of the declaration is, it has to be justified either by a statute or OSR. And you can't just file a declaration saying it's
Understand.
a declaration. So what you have to do is research the justification for the declaration, and that has to be a part of the body of the declaration, as I understand it.
Okay? Council Huddle.
Well, I'd like to ask if I could, please, Council Huddle. I know Commissioner Rose, you referenced ORS 401.305, and I just want to ask Council Huddle Does this paragraph meet the qualifications of that ORS? And if it doesn't, what would you recommend?
Thank you. ORS 401-305, I'm just pulling it up right now. It doesn't have a lot of requirements, but it does have the, it says that we shall appoint an emergency program manager who's responsible for organization, administration, and operation of the emergency management agency, subject to the direction and control of the county, which is the Board of Commissioners. So the direction and control of the emergency management agency is subject to the Board of Commissioners. And then what it says is the declaration of emergency is under 401-309. And 401-309, the declaration of emergency, says the governing body of a city or county of the state may declare by ordinance or resolution that a state of emergency exists within the city or county. It must limit the duration of the state of emergency to the period of time during which conditions giving rise to the declaration exist or are likely to remain in existence. And so then it says you can establish procedures to carry out and prevent and respond to an emergency. It shall describe the conditions required for the declaration. I believe we've established that, the COVID issue. And then it says it may designate the emergency management agency or any other agency or official of the city or county charged with carrying out functions and duties. So our ordinance meets those. It says we have described the issues relating, or our resolution meets those. We've described the issues constituting the emergency, the COVID issue. We have delegated in here to the emergency manager and to the local public health administrator the duties to coordinate our response with the state and federal agencies primarily. We did not include the sheriff. If you, and I think Director Dumeyer's presentation began with him stating that since the time of the governor declaring emergency, a dozen or more counties in Oregon have also declared emergencies. I've surveyed several of those. I've found the ones I could and provided them to the board and also to Director Dumeyer. Give you, for instance, our past ordinances have specifically authorized the sheriff to take actions necessary. There may, and one county, Benton County, included the declaration, included authorizing the sheriff, as Commissioner Pash has suggested. I don't have an issue with that. And then it says, you know, the Emergency Management Division, of course, in Benton County, the Emergency Management Division is under the sheriff, so that may be why they did that. But regardless, they also, and what I would suggest, if I could, our emergency management, our ordinance, or our resolution, excuse me, it just had one directive at the end. It just said that that we would and I'd also include 309, declare a local state of emergency exists within the county, and then that would be one. And then number two, it says it directs the Curry County Office of Emergency Management to take all necessary. I would do, you know, authorized direct, and then another, you know, do one, authorized Director, Office of Emergency Management, two, authorized Curry Local Public Health Administrator to take all necessary actions, three, Director of Operations, and four, Sheriff. Put all those in there. Those would be, and then the other declarations also say, for instance, Yamhill County says the Yamhill County Board of Commissioners, and that's collective. So again, shall be authorized to take such action and issue such orders as are determined to be necessary to protect public life and property. The other thing is, I would recommend, as we talked about earlier, including the specific language to trigger, if we could, the Coronavirus Preparedness and Response Supplement Appropriations Act. And then also the other declarations of emergency that I saw that I was interested in including in here. They declare an emergency for procurement of goods. In other words, now we can now procure goods under our emergency procurement. They also say with regard to employees, we modify relevant personnel leave processes. We may need to do some emergency hiring. I think Commissioner Gold wanted to put on the discussion today that we make some emergency hires. I don't know if we have people in mind, but if we include emergency hiring powers in this emergency declaration. So a local emergency declaration allows us to change our own way of operating our localness, and then also add to the request to the state to make a further request for assistance and to request assistance from the feds. And I think Director Dumeier would agree, we can't just go directly to the feds. We have to go through the state and request the state to go to the feds. So we have I don't think we need, Commissioner Boyce or Vice Chair Boyce, you mentioned we need a second declaration. We just need one declaration, and it can do all these things. It declares a local emergency, requests state and federal assistance, and then it suspends some of our rules and modifies some of our rules. But we break it down into, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A lot of these other ones, I've seen 7 different paragraphs under what they're saying should be done. And what I'd like to do is, my recommendations is we keep what Director Dumeier has put, and then we add a few other things to it that I don't think harm our intentions of triggering state and federal assistance, but they give us more flexibility at the local level to do things that we have control over. So those
I think you're saying we can keep it simple and still be very effective here and get it done today with amendments. I would entertain a motion at the right time here. I do apologize to the board. I got totally confused with the county requesting a governor's declaration of state of emergency. They did that on Monday. So I was trying to figure out if we were asking for a second one. So I didn't communicate that very well. And I don't, and I think you're correct, I don't anticipate another one from the state if you're correct in your analysis. So, Mr. Barnes, anybody else need to speak here? The last of the public comments, I think.
Probably. David Barnes. I've been reading this and corresponding back and forth with people about this for a few days now, and I would like to recommend that you approve this as written. Add a section, as Mr. Rhodes recommended, about the SBA, which kicks you onto the second page for your signature, having the second page for signature. And if you're going to do anything with the bottom now, therefore the board resolves, I would add Sheriff Ward to it. He is the one who is in charge, as you keep reminding us, he's the one who's in charge of public safety and the personal safety of the people in this county. If anybody else should be added to it, I would recommend it to be the sheriff. Thank you.
Mr. Pash, I think you have agreement on that, and we can combine that with what Council Huddle just communicated on how we can proceed with this today. Is that your understanding? Mr. Gold?
Okay, my understanding is this, and I want to make sure the understanding is clear before we go further, that we are going to add a section about SBA, which is good, and down at the bottom, therefore, we resolve, and then we add one more individual, the sheriff, to that.
Council Huddle, and then we're going to come back to you, Commissioner Pash. I think you had something else there.
Thank you. So what I'm recommending is we keep what Director Dumeier has presented, and we add to it. We also break it down into component parts. He has it saying that the emergency management director will do, emergency management director and I think you called it the, sorry, Jeremy.
Public health administrator.
Yeah, you called it the Curry County Public Health, and actually, I think we should just call that our local public health administrator, which is her title and her statutory, status, and that we say, 1, emergency management director do these things, 2, local public health administrator do these things, 3, I think we could add director of operations. Other counties who have administrators have delegated to the administrator things. I think Commissioner Pash, someone I heard in the conversation mentioned director of operations, and then 4, sheriff. So we have So instead of just one paragraph, we now have 4 subparagraphs. Other counties have mentioned the Board of County Commissioners are authorized to take further actions as necessary. We could do that. Again, that's a collective where the Board of Commissioners, I know former Commissioner Rhodes recommended a signature authority to a chair, but I think with the different operators that we have, sheriff, emergency management coordinator, the local public health administrator, and the director of operations, I think if there's something they can't handle, then they can come to the board. But in the meantime, we also add that we're allowing amendment to our personnel rules or suspending the personnel rules, and we're declaring emergency for contracting. So really, and then of course the SBA Coronavirus Preparedness Response Supplemental Appropriations Act recommendation. So that would be a summary of everything that I can think of that we've talked about today. And I see kind of a nod from Director Dumeyer. I'm wondering if the board had any other questions about that. With that, I would direct my assistant, or we are, as Commissioner Pash or Chair Pash reminded us, due for a break. I think within a break, I could get that cobbled up, bring it back to Director Dumeyer for the board, email it to Chair Pash, and after the break, we could then read it at one time all the way through, and then the board can act.
You're that good. You're that good. Commissioner Gold.
I agree with your method. I'd like to read it before I sign it.
Of course.
Or even make a motion, so.
Yep.
Great idea.
And you and Staff Jesuit have that reasonably well recorded, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I've got I know what I'm thinking of, and I'll work with Director Dumeyer during the break and my assistant during the break to get something presentable for the board after the break that we can present to everyone in the meeting.
So, Commissioner Pash, before we go to break, I sent District Attorney Spansell back to his office because of the delay. He's still here? Could we have a couple of, as opposed to holding them up any longer, they've been here an hour and 30 minutes, could we have them come in real quick? And did you have anything else, Mr. Dumeyer?
Not this time.
Okay, so could we have them come in? Doesn't matter which one of you is first. I really am sorry for the delay. This was a huge issue, so welcome.
Thank you. The District Attorney's Office, thank you, Commissioner Gold, Chair Pash on the phone, Commissioner Boyce. Try to be brief. Biggest change, obviously, is I'm the District Attorney now. As you guys know, Mr. Dial retired at the end of January. We had a interim DA for a couple weeks in February, and I was appointed by the governor on the 26th of February. So I've been in office for about 4 years, so nothing has really changed. It's been a pretty smooth transition. Day-to-day, nothing's really changed. We're trying to update forms, policies, things like that, bring things back or into the 21st century. Mr. Dial, I think he would have still been using keyboards if he had the opportunity. But so we're trying to do things like emailing discovery to attorneys, things like that, and we're putting a computer down in the law library so the public can do legal research on a computer instead of with the books. But you know, I'm not going to talk about a lot of the things that I had to say, but I'm just very lucky to have a great team in my office. We've worked together for a long time, so we all get along great, and things are moving right along. With the COVID-19 situation, some things have changed with the state courts. They are trying to limit any out-of-custody hearings. So anybody who's not in jail, they are pushing those hearings out into May at this point, or late April. They're continuing those trials that they had. That we had 13 trials set in the first 2 weeks of April, and most of those are being set out. They're being continued. The in-custody people who have a constitutional statutory right to have their trial within 60 days, those trials are still going to go. There's only 2 of those at this point for April. But crime's not going to stop. We're still going to be filing plenty of district attorney's informations, filing charges against people, and it's just once court starts going again, we're going to be very backed up, and
There's only 2 attorneys in the office, myself and Mr. Kelly. We lost, obviously, Mr. Dial and another deputy district attorney, Cassandra Ban, who went on to Jefferson County. So we're going to be stretched pretty thin in the coming months once we do get started going again. But there's plenty of work to do in the office, so I don't see a lot of changes other than not going to court as often, and obviously that's a big part of our job. We've been canceling meetings that we have every month. Those aren't going to happen in April or March. And there was a child abuse conference in Portland that's put on every year that Mr. Kelly was going to go to, which has been canceled. But that's about it from me for the updates, I think. Happy to answer any questions.
Commissioner Pash?
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. District Attorney.
Yes, thank
Welcome
you.
again. Welcome aboard.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I just want to say, I see Director Lang is next. The Juvenile Department, I work with Wendy a lot on juvenile delinquency matters. Her and her staff do incredibly important work, and honestly, they are truly changing the lives of children in this community. So I want to thank her for that. And thank you, guys.
Thanks again. Welcome, Director Lang.
Thank you very much. Thanks for letting us jump in real quick. I apologize, Commissioner Boyce. I know you'd asked that I brought staff and introduced them, but things are pretty crazy in our office right now. We waited a little bit, but they had to get back. So I would like to bring them at another time and let everybody kind of put a name to a face. With this whole coronavirus thing, our staff actually, kind of in-house, we're looking at a little bit of crisis and concern going on. I think people don't realize in the world of juvenile justice, when you take face-to-face contacts away, when you take resources away, when you take school days away from youth who are struggling, there's some issues that we need to look at. And so the rest of today is being spent on that, but the rest of today is being spent on that, but
Scattered, but we can deal with that. Roadmaster Christensen, we changed you to 7C on the agenda. Authorize you to purchase new radio equipment and materials through Day Wireless. Thank you very, very much for your patience, and again, so sorry we delayed you this long.
No worries. Everything is being discussed is really important. Yes, this purchase is for 5 new handheld radios for the road crews, and also a new vehicle radio for our new sweeper. And these radios also come with headsets, and therefore, so we can operate equipment in our radios at the same time. And so, being over $10,000, I needed to bring this to the board, and I'm just looking for board approval for the roadmaster to purchase this equipment.
Well, Commissioner Pash?
I have spoken with Mr. Christensen about this, and he said he's explained to me the reason for the need, and I'm in full agreement with him.
Okay, I have one question, and yeah, anytime you get Motorola, that is certainly not a bad sign. Compatibility, though, with other systems, and the reason I ask that is because I want to read something to you regarding Day Wireless, and if I need to know if those radios are going to be specific to and only connected with the Day Wireless system, or systems, excuse me. Do you know that, or is that?
No, I don't think it has anything to do with Day Wireless. It has to do with our tower radio system and channels that we have.
Sure.
And the radios that we're buying, they could communicate with different agencies, the sheriff's department. But our radios would have 2 local channels and 1 repeater channel. And these are just for day-to-day operations. And that's how the road department communicates with each other, and if needed, the sheriff department or other agencies.
Well, thank you. Local director, Coos, I always call it the Coos Curry Fire Protection Agency. And I've also spent a little bit of time, and I alluded to you on this a little bit, and I think now is a good time to bring this up. We don't have to make any decision today, but I do have a question related to this. But he's been working with Commissioner Main and Day Wireless in Coos County, and they think they have rough terrain. I've convinced them, I think, that yes, you do, but not anything like what we have here. They do, as you probably know, have multiple towers as well. We're sitting here with 6 towers, right? And so here's Mike's challenge to us as Curry County, and he thinks he can help us. And I know we just signed a contract with Day Wireless, and I know that, and by the way, Commissioner Main has been very satisfied, as we have been and you have been. I think I can safely say the sheriff as well has been satisfied with the Day Wireless effort. But here's Director Robinson's concern. Day Wireless Systems continually is motivated throughout the proposal with paying users at the sites. And by the way, Mr. Robin went through our whole meeting when we did our last analysis there, and it appears that these revenues would be split 70-30 with Curry County 70% and DWS 30%. They speak to maximizing private users versus public users, as the private users generate more revenue. I understand the need to generate the revenue for the county. I have a problem with a motivated proposal that puts money in a private vendor's pocket. And he's concerned that the proposal, is slanted away from a public safety network to a private user model, all to generate additional funds. As stated, Curry County's radio systems first and foremost needs to be focused on public and first responder safety. I'm halfway through here. And I am working, that's Rob's is still writing here, with Coos County at this time to build a radio system that collaborates CFPA, Coos Force Protective, and Coos County Communication Systems. Coos County is trying to move away from DWS due to absorbent costs and quality of customer service sliding away, primarily because the technicians are coming from Interstate 5, which you have also highlighted in the past. And I want to give you plenty of time to respond. You want to respond now at this point? I'm almost done.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Through this collaboration, Coos County will be able to save $100,000 by migrating away from DWS and building a technician program between the county and CFPA. Coos County also went outside DWS to have the design and engineering for their proposed new system. They have engaged Codan Daniels, who has a long-standing relationship with the Oregon Department of Forestry, and he does all of their radios, is my understanding. To date, Mr. Daniels, that company, has been working with Coos County for nearly 2 years, has designed a system, attended many meetings, and has not charged them one dime. I would love to sit down with you and discuss this more as we talk by phone. I will reach out to my counterpart in Coos County and schedule a meeting. Radio communications is key to our business success in many ways. The closer we work together in these challenging times, the better our chance of successes will be. And that was written to me on March 5th. And I've known Mike for a long time, and I really trust his judgment. I do want to emphasize that Commissioner Main was very pleased with the DWS, Day Wireless efforts. He did reference, as you've had to reference many times, that they go on eBay and they try and find parts. They try and keep us going. And but we also allocated late last year, $800,000 from the County Road Fund reserves to upgrade our system. I'm not suggesting we need to move away from that, but what I do want to know is if we can at least table this contract for now and get the wise people together, which would be you, the sheriff, whomever, Coos County Sheriff, whomever we need to collect here, and see if this is perhaps a better way to go.
I hear what you're saying.
Okay.
And
thanks for that long-winded.
yeah, I'll try to answer all that. So we've had a contract with Day Wireless probably over 20 years, and for our maintenance and of our facilities and taking care of them. We amended that contract a few weeks ago to help us manage our interagency user fees and obtain them. And Coos Forest Patrol is one of those agencies. And that we're looking at Day Wireless to amend those agreements. So I think we should let things go like they are. We could look at finding a different way to operate and manage our towers, but our staff, and we don't have enough staff to do all that. We really need Day Wireless. Day Wireless has been providing this service for years, and I wasn't really involved with the tower dish project for $820,000. It was an emergency, and Day Wireless worked with the sheriff's department and the board, and that happened. And so what we're looking at is not to make a priority over or take away from all the sister agencies, public safety and fire departments, Coos Forest Patrol. We're looking at expanding the facilities to allow more commercial so they can be revenue generating. So we're looking at tower space or Day Wireless, if there's capacity on the towers or in the facilities, could put more shelters in there, because we get requests from like Verizon. That would be a big paying customer that could help us with our sinking funds for future repairs in our day-to-day operations, which would also help with our interagency costs, because that would lower those. And we're having problems now with a lot of our volunteer agencies and fire departments where they haven't been paying their costs to be in those towers or pass through those towers. So the more commercial vendors we get in there, which Day Wireless is aggressively trying to help us with, it helps us absorb those other costs. So I think the way we're going is good. We could look at this other company or organization, but I think the model we have right now is a good model.
Great. So would you be willing to participate in some kind of a workshop, but it may be a moot point if in fact we can't, we're bound by the agreement we have with Day Wireless, and maybe we should stay that way.
I think it's worth talking about, and I believe it's a 4-year, and it comes up every 4 years, and we can look at that. But like I said, we've been working with Day Wireless for many, many years, and we just expanded a little bit to help us with our agreements.
Well, yes, thank you. And Roadmaster Christian, when somebody that you've known for 30 years and you trust says, hey, this is what it might be saving, very likely saving Coos County, it sure gets your attention. Yeah, that's $100,000. Yeah. But, I don't want to spoil a good relationship if, in fact, that's your characterization with Day Wireless.
I think, we should always look at saving money where we can and providing the best service we can.
Would you mind staying up there? Captain McDonald, would you mind coming up?
Thank you very much. Captain McDonald with the Sheriff's Office. I just wanted to talk about the Day Wireless stuff a little bit. I have dealt with Day Wireless in my capacity in law enforcement for over 30 years, and they're a great partner for law enforcement. What I want to remind you of what Coos County is working on right now with Coos Forest Protection, with what we're doing with Day Wireless right now, we're going to be asking Coos Forest to pay more than what they currently are paying. They don't want to pay that. The other thing is when they talk about creating technicians, we use Day Wireless, and if we have a problem with our radio system, they have a technician here on site in our county. They send technicians from all over the place at no additional cost as per our contract.
Say that again if you wouldn't mind, please. I think I heard you, but...
We already have technicians on site. We have all of Day Wireless, not just one employee that these guys are trying to create technicians. Have all that in place. And yes, we pay for that. We pay a contract fee for that. But what I'm saying is I support it. I've been through radio companies in the past. We've got a good thing going. We should not mess it up. Like Mr. Christensen, I agree also. We should always try and get the best bang for our dollar. That's, part of what I do in the sheriff's office. We are getting the best bang for our dollar. I can tell you that from experience. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Commissioner Pash?
Yes.
Did you have anything?
I really don't have any comment. I think we have a good relationship. I mean, I of course don't mind kicking the bushes and learning all we can about another company, and of course cost effectiveness. But in my conversations with the sheriff's department, with road crew, Mr. Christensen, I was, as you know, as you were as well, when we went through the presentation last year from them on the new towers. I was very impressed with, the work that they did and the services that they did the county. So at this point, I'm pretty happy with Day Wireless. I think they could sharpen their pencil a little bit, but that's just my personal opinion.
Captain McDonald, would you be in favor of a workshop, see what we can learn?
Oh, yeah, I'm always willing to explore and look, but I also, the relationship that we've created is beneficial to all of us here. So, but yes, I would participate in a workshop. Just let me know when and where.
Stay there if you wouldn't mind. Commissioner Gold?
I just have one comment. I'm very impressed with having Day Wireless do our contracts simply because we need to be putting away for replacement. And that's why we ended up in the place where we had to pay $820,000 last year.
One time, yes,
Mm-hmm.
that is.
Well, that was a big hit. And I think I just heard you say that you understand the principle behind competition always brings better service.
Yeah, exactly. No, I agree wholeheartedly. But like I said, I've been in radio worlds outside of this county, and we're paying for a great service, and we're getting our money's worth. I can tell you that.
I met with then Roadmaster Robbins, two of the Day Wireless people in those days, and pretty impressive with what they could present, put on the board, the whiteboard or whatever, and so they were gone shortly after, but they seemed, correct me if I'm wrong, they seemed to be able to replace their technicians fairly consistently and don't drop off much. Is that correct?
Well, they provide a service to the whole Pacific Northwest. I mean, it's not like it's a one-person shop. So if this guy is not available, if our local person that works for Day Wireless isn't here, they send somebody from Klamath Falls or from Medford or from Eugene or from Roseburg. They have employees all over the state, and they have their own tower crews. To have to hire an external, if we went with Coos, the prices, anyway, now isn't the time for that. I just wanted to make sure that
Wait, say that again. Now is not the time for that?
Well, to get into all the details. That would be the workshop you talked about.
But you have some valuable background and information. Sergeant Hensley, please.
Understand we get the best bang for our buck that we're getting.
And you wouldn't rule out at least reviewing the possibility of working with Coos County and perhaps even combining with them someday, considering we have very similar issues and
it would depend,
hardships.
It would depend on the reliability of what they're doing and who they're doing it with.
I see a consensus here. This is good. Come on up, Deputy. Please.
Lieutenant Joel Hensley, Curry County Sheriff's Office.
Did I just say Sergeant? I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's fine. As long as you call me Joel, it's all right. Captain McDonald's is dead on. Day Wireless provides us with an additional service beyond the towers. They also service all our equipment down in dispatch, and which also controls our jail doors. They do all the command and control function all under the same contract that we have. So they provide that service. We had an issue with the doors once. They sent a tech immediately from Medford here, and we're calling in other resources. Whenever we had our microwave come off the towers, they flew in a crew from Washington to handle the issue immediately. Granted, another storm ripped off the next tower, the other dish off. But those what's available to us right now. I have talked to Captain Fabrizio from Coos County, and he's told me what his overall plan is. And they are talking about going with a different radio system that's separate from the system that we have. But their towers are in just as rough shape as ours.
Yeah, that's what we're hearing.
And so whenever they talk about saving $100,000, that they have a pretty hefty price tag coming for their service, and I think they're looking at a way to mitigate that cost. So keep that in mind.
And you referenced That's the name that keeps coming up.
Captain Fabrizio from the Sheriff's Office.
From Coos County, yes. And so he's also pretty knowledgeable.
He is a very knowledgeable man.
And I think he'd be interested in connecting with us and
I think we have Curry County Sheriff's best interest at mind. I believe he has Coos County Sheriff's best interest as mine as well, though. So we
great.
remember that.
Okay, and when it comes to Mike Robinson, I'll put my friendship aside, but, and we did lock horns a little bit on, but he's not motivated by paying less or not recognizing the issue that we have as a county and trying to recoup some of those costs. So but I think he's coming on board to simply say, is there a better way? Can we help? Can we pool our resources and get our shoulders together? And I'm committed or convinced that he's committed to that.
The other thing you have to look at is the big picture, and sometimes when you save $1, but it costs you $500 2 months later because you saved that dollar, you have to look at all of those things. And that is one of the big things that I see a problem with doing what Coos is doing.
I've only been a commissioner 3 years, and I've seen that mistake over and over, so thank you.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Thanks for coming over, gentlemen. Hey, Roadmaster Christensen, do you have anything else to add? You were looking for a vote, I think.
Yeah, I just want to buy some radios. So I just would like permission to buy 5 new handheld radios and a new radio for a piece of equipment and all the associated labor costs. And it's a little over $10,000.
Okay, before we do them. Okay. Emergency Manager Dumar, did you have anything you wanted to contribute to that discussion?
Really nothing for the record, Jeremy Dumar, Curry County Emergency Management, really nothing to add to it. I would be fully in support of this purchase for the road department because it is part of their safety of operations. So nothing else.
But on the other issue, you would be included in that workshop if we can actually get that together?
Should there be a workshop, I would participate.
Thank you. I'm ready for motion, Commissioner Gold or Commissioner
I
Pat.
move that we authorize the roadmaster to purchase $10,405.51 in new radio equipment and materials through Day Wireless. Did I get the cents right?
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gold.
Aye.
Vice Chair Pash. Chair Pash.
Aye.
Vice Chair Boyce.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Christensen. Okay. Somebody help me determine what our next, we on?
Consent agenda.
We are in consent agenda. So I'm going to read that off real quickly here. 8A, minutes, business meeting, November 20th, 2019. 8B, business minutes, meeting, March 4th. Oh, if I may, Commissioner Gold, Commissioner Pash, on the November 20th meeting, it doesn't reference it. It just says I was absent from the meeting. I was at the AOC convention, and I called in that day. I just missed some of the less strategic votes. So can I get the minutes changed to that, or do I have to go back and amend the whole agenda in order to do that? I want the public to know that I was working and faithfully.
So you're recommending an amendment to the minutes?
Yeah, 8A, because I did miss 3 votes, maybe 4 votes, and I just want the public to know that I did call in at that meeting, and I was at the AOC convention bouncing back and forth. And that was that was the second day of the convention. So how can we quickly get that done?
You make a motion to include that somewhere and see if the board adopts it and then approves the minutes as amended.
So looking for a motion?
You would move and then see if it gets seconded and approved.
I was looking for a motion there. Okay, I'll move that we amend the November 20th, 2019 minutes. Curry County Board of Commissioners was at the AOC convention, did call in, and I think that's it. That's all we need.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor, roll call, I'm sorry, Mr. Jesuit.
Commissioner Gold.
Aye.
Vice Chair Boyce.
Yes.
Chair Pash.
Aye.
Motion carried unanimously.
Consent agenda 8B, minutes, business meeting March 4th, 2020. Amend past master payroll. 8E, renewal. To the chair. 8F, order authorizing deed of Brookings Head Start to Oregon Community. That should be Oregon Community Action, not Alliance. No big thing. 8G, classification change of an employee. Assessor's Office K. Wagner. And 8H, transfer of an employee. Assessor's Office Anthony Pagano. Oh, excuse me, one more. 8J, no, HI, I'm sorry, the BOC Board of Property Tax Appeals. Anything else, Commissioner Gold?
Nope, that's it.
Commissioner Pash?
None.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as amended.
I'll second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gold.
Aye.
Vice Chair Boyce.
Yes.
Chair Pash.
Aye.
Motion carried unanimously.
9B, Curry County Public Transit Audit. I've got to get onto my documents here.
I'll speak to that.
Yeah, please do, Commissioner. Thank you.
Okay, there were two things that basically needed to be done on the audit, things that we needed to do. One was a policy that took care of Title VI, and the other was a procurement policy. We've already done the policy for the Title VI, and we are in the process of doing the policy for the procurement policy.
And the due date on that is September, I think,
Right.
30th or?
Yeah, we've got quite a ways.
I think so, yeah. We have they gave us 180 days to do the procurement policy.
And I don't think we need to have any action on that. We just, it's a matter of discussion.
It's
So.
just a report.
So any more discussion?
Nope, that's it.
So you want a motion?
We don't need one.
Excuse me. Okay, so we have a consensus. That's good to go. How about 9C, asphalt, oil, price quote, award with signature authority to Roadmaster Christensen?
Council Huddle, I saw a note from you to Roadmaster Christensen on this. Do you want to expound on that or leave it as it is?
Well, Chair Pash, I must tell you that the note that you saw is not coming to my mind. You might need to refresh my recollection if we need any expoundment, but I right now I'm not.
Your authority is what your question was to Mr. Christensen, and if it's fine the way it is, I would prefer it the way it is. So it's your call on that, if you recall.
I really don't, so we can just leave as is unless Mr. Christensen has anything based on my comments earlier.
I say leave it as it is because it's the way we've handled it in the past.
Okay.
I'm used to raising my hand here. I'm raising my hand, Commissioner Pash. I couldn't tell who got the bid on this.
Albana.
Oh, excuse me.
Asphalt.
Okay. Well, good job on that. That whole project, that looks pretty clean to me.
Yeah, we're pretty excited about this bid because in this bid, you'll see an alternate bid that the state is also buying asphalt. And that's because projects. We're not only doing our own projects, but we're planning to do 11.5 miles of Carpenterville Road. That's the ODOT road, and we're going to be blending our teams and equipment, and this is the first time, and maybe looking towards the future when we have a lack of road funds, this is the type of work that we need to do to try to sustain the road department.
It's hard not to be really enthused about that. I mean, your predecessors did a really good job, making those connections and building those relationships, and you've really accelerated it.
Yeah, it's part of our strategic planning, so. But anyway, so if we're just looking to get approval from the board to purchase $312,000 worth of asphalt for this year's chip seal program.
I make that motion that we approve the quote for $312,000 for the asphalt oil.
I'll second.
I'll second.
Well, put Commissioner Pash down on that. Any more discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gold,
Aye.
Vice Chair Boyce.
Yes.
Chair Pash.
Thank you.
Thanks for hanging in with us today. Goodness. Item 9D, Emergency Employee Compensation Discussion. Director of County Operations, Julie Smelzer. I don't think she's on the phone here. Anybody want to take the lead here, Council Huddle, or do you, Commissioner Gold?
I had a discussion with Director Schmelzer on this issue, and I agreed with her evaluation of this matter. If the county closes down, then it will behoove the county to pay for the employees. I also am looking at those employees who are living paycheck to paycheck and don't have the savings enough. I can think of one who started just recently, so that sick leave is not here, and this individual is very sick, shouldn't be coming in, but has a family. So since the personnel rules are going to be changing, this is my suggestion. I don't know whether you would agree or not, but right now we have something in the personnel rules that states that other employees can't give their sick leave unless they have how many hours accumulated?
Well, would you mind coming to the microphone?
Julie Swift, Payroll and HR. We just dropped for non-represented the minimum to donate. They have to have at least 140 hours of sick time to donate.
Okay, so I would like, this is just my opinion, I think we ought to lower that kind of in this state of emergency so that people can help out their coworkers in order to do that, and have the regular sick policy stay in place except where we have exceptions.
We just lowered it from 240 to 140.
I know it's low, but we've got a big emergency going here.
Council Huddle.
Thank you. So one of the things that we're going to talk about in executive session today, we received a letter of agreement from the SEIU union, and it had some it was basically a template of an agreement they had with the State of Oregon Department of Administrative Services, because I think that union has a lot of employees employed by the state, and it had some...
Like about 1,500.
Yeah, and it had some provisions for addressing a lot of personnel issues. I've read it once. We're going to talk about an exec session. I think it might even address the exact issue Commissioner Gold just brought up, but several others. Also, Jefferson County just adopted some COVID personnel rules, and so I'd like for us to discuss those in executive session in the context of addressing the SEIU union, but then after that, with a lot of our terms, they get rolled out more broadly. So that's something for us to talk about a little bit later today. I've also sent the SEIU letter of agreement to the affected department heads who have SEIU, the clerk, the assessor, the development department, and juvenile. I hope I'm not leaving anyone out. And I think under the context of being in the union affecting the collective bargaining agreement, we can do that in exec session and then decide after that how far we go in a public conversation on those topics.
Okay, I just think it's important that we keep our employees in mind when things like this are going on. In fact, I can think of 2 employees right now that are out sick that are key to being able to function as a county. So.
Well, in the interest of our discussion, very good work, by the way, Council Huddle. What is your...
Yes, Commissioner?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I agree with Council Huddle on this. Let's talk about it in exec, and then we can come out of exec afterwards and make a decision. But we can also, something I want to get out, so we maybe take a note on it, I'll make a note on it so we don't forget about it, is we can have an expiration date on that as well, so that it doesn't continue on after, because we understand this is an emergency, so we have to take care of some people.
Thank you. So what is the board's consensus on when somebody does show up sick? Are we united on that? And, I'd like to hear you both communicate on what your thoughts are there and how we handle that. And maybe that can come up in the elected official board of directors meeting tomorrow. I'm sure it will.
I think.
Hang on. Chair Cohen, you want to come up with?
Well, what we were going to do was talk about that in executive session, then go public with further discussion after we talk about the SEIU.
Can you join us in executive session?
I would like to join you in executive session, and I was just going to encourage you to curtail this conversation right now and take it to executive session, because who knows, there may be some union issues that we'll be covering, and
we will be.
Yep. And then hopefully, though, I don't know how quickly we need to respond to this, but I mean, it would be nice to take whatever we discuss, if there's any changes made, back to department heads and elected officials, and be able to have a conversation about moving forward.
Good. So, Commissioner Gold, you looking out for our employees, on the optimistic opinion that we're going to get through this in the next month or two, keeping our people as stable as we possibly can so that we don't have to do a major rehire at some point. And those people are also key to the rest of the community in the likely build back. So, I want the public to know that we're going to try and keep our people intact and our services as solid as we possibly can.
My only comment is that we follow the direction and the advice of OHA and CDC, just as we have in the emergency
In what
declaration.
capacity?
They suggest that if an employee is sick, they stay home.
Okay.
May I make one more comment?
Certainly.
And it's really just a comment of appreciation to both you commissioners and Commissioner Pash here today in recognizing that our employees are really key to what we do. And they're doing a great job for us, and they've got their fears in this coronavirus too. And let's keep everybody safe, including our citizens, and continue getting the work done wherever we can, and make this process as palatable to everyone as we can.
Assessor Cullen, when we have to retrain somebody, would you have just a rough figure? $500 to retrain somebody, the cost to the county. Commissioner Rhodes could even possibly, and we don't have to have this discussion now, but I mean, it is interesting, I think, or pertinent to the public to understand when we lose somebody and then we have to do a rehire, that training process is tremendously expensive.
Well, when you were referencing $1,500 to $2,500, if you were talking about dollars, I think that's way low, because I'd be looking at 1,500 to 2,500 hours for somebody in the assessor's office, because we go through a year-long procedure, and when we get a new person in there, they don't see it all until the year loop has gone up.
Like training a new commissioner, isn't it? And no, that's very helpful, though. That is very helpful. Okay. Thank you. I don't have anything else. Commissioner Pash?
No, I don't have anything else.
Is it time to continue the discussion of the emergency declaration? We have 15 minutes till lunch. I don't know if the board wanted to do that now.
Let's do it.
Yes, but hang on one second. In my notes here, I've got 9E part-time. Does that ring a bell with anyone? Did I move that?
That was the discussion we're moving into executive session.
Thank you. Okay. Hold on.
Excuse me, I think that was something that Commissioner Gold put on to hire someone in an emergency situation for janitorial stuff.
But it's taken care of in the declaration if we approve that.
Got it.
So everybody's good on that. Is that correct?
Right. I think we've addressed Commissioner Gold's concerns there. for the time being, but we'll under the context of the emergency declaration.
Thank you, Council Huddle. So welcome back, Mr. Dumeyer.
All right, again, for the record, Jeremy Dumeyer, Curry County Emergency Manager. And with the suggestions that were given earlier today on the declaration that has been amended, you do have a copy before you. Chair Pash, I believe you have a copy emailed to you as well.
Yes, I do.
Do we want this to be read in the record, or?
I think going down, I heard Commissioner Gold said you wanted to go line by line on it, and so I think that's, it shouldn't take that much time. It's a double-spaced, couple pages, so. And
who do you want to read it, Council Huddle?
I'll take care of that, if that's
good, Jeremy. Sure.
That's fine.
So the declaration, whereas Oregon Revised Statute 401.305 provides authority for Curry County to act as an emergency management agency, including authority to establish policies and protocols for defining and directing responsibilities during time of emergency. And whereas the following conditions have resulted in the need for a state of emergency, Oregon announced its first presumptive case of coronavirus COVID-19 on February 28, 2020. On March 8, 2020, the governor of Oregon declared a statewide emergency for the coronavirus for a 60-day duration. Whereas the following damage to life and property can be expected from the above conditions: disease, and requires a great deal of possible resources related to contact tracing, disease investigation, community information, and funding are expected to be exhausted. And whereas this declaration is in support of the COVID-19 public health response, and Curry County residents are encouraged to follow Oregon Health Authority, OHA, and the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, guidelines. And whereas all local resources have or likely will be expended, and there's need of the following additional resources from the state: assistance regarding consistent messaging to the public, disease investigation, and economic and small business assistance, a request from the governor to the SBA to trigger economic injury disaster loan assistance, and as necessary under the Coronavirus Preparedness and Response Supplement Appropriations Act, designating Curry County eligible. Now therefore, the Board of Curry County Commissioners hereby resolves: 1, under the emergency powers granted under Oregon Revised Statute 401.309, declare that a local state of emergency exists within Curry County. The duration of the emergency be June 30th, 2020, or concurrent with earlier termination or extension by the state of Oregon of the COVID-19 declaration of emergency. 2, this declaration directs the Curry County Office of Emergency Management to take all necessary steps authorized by law to coordinate response and recovery from this emergency, including but not limited to requesting assistance and potential reimbursements from the state of Oregon and the appropriate federal authorities. 3, this declaration directs the Curry County Public Health Administrator to take all necessary steps authorized by law to coordinate response and recovery from this emergency, including but not limited to requesting assistance and potential reimbursements from the state of Oregon and the appropriate federal authorities. Excuse me. 4, this declaration directs the Sheriff of Curry County to take all necessary steps authorized by law to coordinate response and recovery from this emergency. 5, this declaration directs the Director of Operations to take all necessary steps authorized by law within her job description to coordinate response and recovery from this emergency. 6, request the Governor seek approval from the federal government, SBA, as necessary to qualify Curry County for relief under the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Assistance, and as necessary under the Coronavirus Preparedness and Response Supplement Appropriations Act. 7, emergency procurement of goods and services are authorized pursuant to Oregon Revised Statute 279B.088, Oregon Revised Statute 279C.335, parent 6, Oregon Revised Statutes 279.380, parent 4, and Curry County Local Contracting Rules. 8, the Curry County Board of Commissioners suspends its personnel rules with respect to advertising of hiring for positions needed to respond to this emergency. Dated the 18th day of March 2020. Any questions?
Did Brenda type that all in 15 minutes?
Her and me.
That's
and
great.
Jeremy and
That's great.
Sheree.
Commissioner Gold.
I just have one question. Do you feel this is sufficient for our county and that it's, okay,
I do.
good, thank you.
Well, I couldn't be happier myself, and it's a long ways from what I submitted Friday. Well, yeah, very well done. That was good work. That was a workshop of sorts, and Commissioner Rhodes, you've read it and you've listened, and from a small business perspective, and also a former commissioner, what you want to offer your thoughts?
Well, I think it's excellent. I believe it does.
Please.
Sorry. I think it's excellent. I believe it addresses the issues. As I mentioned earlier, my only concern, I know that Commissioner Pash is out sick, and with signature authority required from him also, I'm not sure when he'd return and when we might get this fired off.
So in the absence of the chair, the vice chair can act. That's a general rule. So even though it says signature authority of the chair, the vice chair can sign it.
Okay.
He'll be back.
He'll be back, I hope. Commissioner, I hope you return soon.
Well, I have a question. Commissioner Pash, do you have a copy of it there? You could sign it and have your wife bring it by or something?
I've already spoken to JJ
Oh.
today. My wife will come over and pick up, and then I will sign, and she will bring it right back to the BOC office.
Settled.
Okay, I move that we approve the emergency declaration within Curry County to request the, just emergency declaration is good, for COVID-19. Good enough.
Second?
I'll second.
I jumped ahead of you on that, and Commissioner. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gold,
Aye.
Vice Chair Boyce.
Aye.
Motion carried unanimously.
Okay. Not quite noon, so we want to break for lunch now, correct? I think that's what everybody agreed to or was leaning toward. So we're going, can we come back at 1:15? How would that suit everyone? Or should we just do 1 o'clock?
1:15 is very good.
Okay.
Would we adjourn to executive session and come right into executive session and talk about these items for the union and the personnel rules and stuff?
So noted. 1:15
Okay.
executive session.
All right.
We're going to close this board meeting, and we'll come out of executive session sometime, hopefully early afternoon. Thank
Very
you
good.
all.
Thank you.
JJ? Yes, sir. JJ?
Officer Dave Fortman, Animal Control Program and Issues, Shelter Funding Discussion. Welcome, sir.
Do we want to approve the agenda first? I'm just looking at the,
Do we need to approve it?
yeah, I move we approve the agenda as written.
So no amendments to the workshop agenda. We have 2 items. I'll second. Any discussion?
Commissioner Gold,
Aye.
Vice Chair Boyce,
Yes?
Chair Pash.
Aye.
Motion
JJ.
carried unanimously.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. For the record, Dave Foreman, Curry County Code Enforcement Officer. What I'd like to do today, we had a whole bunch of people coming, and the virus thing is, I guess, knocking off. So I do thank South Coast for attending and putting an end on this. I'm trying to be brief for a change. I'm going to give you a view of what is code, animal control, what laws out there are we responsible for, how do we get to where we're at a year ago, what have we done in the last year, our problems, and our potential solutions for it down the road. That's okay.
Mr. Ford, would you mind pulling that? Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Usually I talk loud enough. All right, animal control is created by Curry County. Article 4.
Quit.
Yeah.
I think it'll go away. That's a real sensitive mouse.
Article 4, and when the commissioners set up Article 4, the authority for the Animal Control District was countywide, including the 3 cities. So our jurisdiction applies in the 3 cities. Although there is some they looked at that time that the cities would do their animal enforcement of their nuisance animals, and animal control for the county would back them up and do licensing, rabies, and the other parts of the program. When it was originally set up, the program was put under, my understanding, under the sheriff. And then a few years ago, the program was migrated when the county divested itself of some of the other services to a nonprofit to run the shelter and do the animal control work, which was actually not in the agreement with them. Our agreement with Wild Rivers is to run our shelter and maintain it in a safe and sanitary manner. So nobody for the last few years has been doing anything to enforce the laws on animals other than local police on a as happened basis. So we have the Article 4. In addition to Article 4, there are other laws that apply to animals in this county. Each city has their own municipal code. They're all essentially the same, a little bit of tweaks in each of them. The state has a statewide animal control ordinance under ORS, and going back and preparing for this, actually it says that the animal control department for each county can enforce ORSs too, so we got on that. In addition to that...
Would you mind repeating that just for the public? I think that's a really important, that the counties are almost responsible. I'm sorry for interrupting you, but almost responsible for enforcing those state guidelines or statutes?
Yeah, there is no state agency to enforce the animal ordinances. When they set up the statute, when I talked to the different associations about it, they looked at making a county responsibility. Each county bought into the system, created their own animal control districts. Pretty much each county, including our own Article 4, essentially mirrored the state statute, the ORS. There are some exceptions. Curry County is a little more rural, so we didn't look at some of the statutes that other counties do. The more metropolitan counties added more statutes, realizing that they faced a little different animal problems than what we do here in rural Curry County.
Thank you. Again, apologize for interrupting you. That just really hit me. It's one more responsibility we have that, almost a burden that we don't have the fund for. But yeah.
I haven't answered. Actually, I'm going to come to you with no request for funds. In addition to that, the county park department has their own ordinances on animals. The state parks have theirs. And Fish and Game and federal U.S. Wildlife also has ordinances that pop in here. So our ordinance, where it kind of was derived, basically only describes us interacting with dogs. And dogs, and then it peripherally says that our job is to protect the cattle industry from wild dogs, Again, it was written many, many years ago. It doesn't address where our population has gone, where people have now taking other pets, and I'll talk about that in a minute, and how do we deal with somebody who has a 250-pound pig as their pet in their house? Okay, is one of the big issues here.
Yeah.
Or, as I just got a phone call as I'm waiting to come in here, that somebody's horse is on South Bank Checo Road right now. What do we do with it? So these are all issues that you'll see a little bit in the presentation where we need to go. My first interaction with this county's code, animal control was shortly within a week of me arriving here on a part-time basis. And I was delegated by the county administrator at that time to be the de facto hearing officer in lieu of the board as the first level hearing officer in a dispute between a public member and the animal shelter on an impound. And had I not done that job, it would have come to you, or if people don't agree today with the decisions made at my level, then they can appeal them to the board. You're the appellate in the Article 4 system. My background, just to give you a little bit, when I was in college, I was an animal control officer down in the Bay Area. So I dealt with this for San Mateo County. And San Mateo County had its 15 officers and used a nonprofit shelter and had a pretty good system in there. So that's my frame of reference to get here. Last spring, this board came to code enforcement and said, would code enforcement be willing to step up to enforce the Article 4 statutes? And with the negotiations with some of the board, I said, that's what code enforcement would be happy to do, with the exception that we need to also focus on some of the service aspects of animal control that people don't seem to remember and think about. So originally the mandate last spring was enforce the dog control regulations, particularly the nuisance animal ordinance, and provide assistance to other agencies. So the example of that occurs almost every day. An agency arrests somebody, and in the car with them is their pet dog, and they're trying to take them off to jail. What happens to that dog? An ambulance goes out to a house, and the owner won't, it's actually happened several times, the owner won't even get in the ambulance until they know that their dog's being taken care of. So we are responding to these calls 24/7, 365, providing emergency services, what I call protective custody issues for that. We also respond, unfortunately too frequently, to injured animal calls. What happens the other day, my deputy brought a dog down with a broken leg from Langlis. Okay. We're the only ones that have the transportation equipment. We have a stretcher, we have other things to care for them, and code enforcement entered in an agreement with emergency vets to provide emergency care for the animals that we bring in on these circumstances. So this is where we ended up evolving into providing service calls to it. And part of that service calls then, as each of the cities got involved and got used to having somebody they can call, the cities were very happy that suddenly there's somebody that can come deal with the aggressive animal. Last week, or 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, we got a call from the city of Brookings. 6 of their city workers working on a road were attacked by a dog, multiple attacks by the same dog. And, can we come down and corral the dog and take custody of it? Nobody could catch it. Last week, kind of a follow-up what you had, Commissioner Boyce, 2 hybrid wolves, dogs in Brookings escaped for multiple time and were terrorizing the neighborhood. The police were chasing them, couldn't get them caught. Call us, we're the ones that are going to go down there and catch them on these instances. So we respond not only to the protective custody and sick animals, but we respond to the aggressive attacks that are in progress out there. We also respond to a number of calls where the public finds the dog in the middle of the night running down the street. And God love them, they catch the dog and say, I have this cute dog, what am I going to do with it? And what are we ever going to do with it? And it falls on the county animal services to go impound that dog, take it to a safe shelter, try to reunify it with its owner, get it back back to where it belongs. As part of that, it then segued that animal control were actually monitoring a lot of the social media sites where people were sharing information about lost dogs and found dogs on Facebook, so that honestly I didn't have to go out at 11 o'clock every night and got calls and got a description. Hey, we found this dog, this white dog, black thing up on Pioneer, and I'm going, are you in the X 100 block? That dog belongs to this house. So we were able to even make unifications by tracking the social media, and we're now expanding the county website to be able to do that information online to, again, get the dog. To all of these animal complaints, and every time they responded to an animal complaint, chances are they sent a different officer, a different deputy out there, and each time the officer or deputy was going, giving them a warning, and moving on, and suddenly morning, and moving on, and suddenly. So the other thing where I tell people every single day about dog licenses, besides this being $25, the best deal in town, any dog that gets picked up in this county one time in 12 months with a dog license gets a free ride home. Because we have the database, give them the warning, have them comply. They don't get a $440 ticket. They don't get the dog being dragged up here to Gold Beach. They don't get the impound fees for caring for the animal. All of the additional costs because they bought this little $25 dog license.
It's called insurance, right?
Oh, this is the best insurance policy in the world. So there's all these advantages to these dog licenses, okay, and requirements that the county has to do this. County needs to represent these things. But here's the benefit to the county on this. When they set up animal ordinances, the ORS a long time ago, they looked at how do we pay for these things? And you pay for them, every county in Oregon is paying for them out of the dog license fees instead of the general fund. Okay, so here's some interesting statistics I learned for this presentation. Did you know that there are only 1,000 dogs in Curry County?
Nobody likes dogs.
Nobody likes dogs, according to that. We have less than 1,000 dog licenses in Curry County. I have to, tongue-in-cheek, say, I think there's 1,000 dogs within a half mile of where I live. Currently, the county, through the current arrangement, collects an average of $30,000 a year on those dog licenses, which goes directly to the shelter. Not one penny is retained by us. National statistics say that it's an average of almost an equal number of dogs per population in a community. So we have 23,000 people there. So if you take that number and look at what we can do, and my goal, if this board and everybody agrees, is for us to push the dog licenses and get the number up to 5,000 dogs through public education and our partnership. 5,000 dogs is $150,000. $150,000 that was written in the statute to pay for animal services. That $150,000 can pay for the kennels, for the shelters. It can buy us educational, professional education programs that come in. It can buy us services and supplies for the advantage. It can defer a little bit of code enforcement's cost in enforcing these things. If we just follow our own statute and the state statute and just get our number up to 5,000. So one of the things I'm saying in this presentation is at the request of the county executive is that there's a recommendation that the county take back the licensing features, issue them out of code enforcement. Not saying take the money away from the shelters or programs. I'm just saying that license should come from Curry County. Because a lot of people get these license notices from a nonprofit organization. They go, oh, I don't like that nonprofit. Why should I pay a nonprofit? And our notice will say, here's the good reasons why you should have one of these things. And oh, by the way, it's a law. It's a law. Exemptions for dog licenses by statute are for blind people or people with assisted animals. Exemptions apply for dog licenses for people who only have hunting dogs or kennel dogs. There are several exceptions carved out, and these have been working in all the other counties. We just need to start following those laws. And then protect our community by making sure those rabies certificates are current. So on this slide again was pretty much what I've already talked about. A lot of this. Rabies, of course, is a fatal disease. It can be treated before the symptoms exist. In other words, a person gets bit by a rabid animal. As long as they get the inoculations before they develop the symptoms and the doctor goes, oops, you got rabies, they have a 99% chance of living. Once the symptoms develop, it's too late, which is why under the rabies statute of the ORSs, it says that any animal that bites a human being needs to be investigated, the rabies certificate needs to be verified, and the animal needs to be quarantined according to the circumstances of the bite. And that's things that my officer and I are doing, is going out and identifying these animals. We need to educate the public, again, not only about their own personal dogs and issues, but here's another example. The other month or so ago, got a call of a dog injured up in unincorporated Port Orford, attacked by an animal, got up there. Dog's been bitten in multiple places, no collar, impounded the animal, took it to the shelter, actually put a hold on it. And mistakenly, the owner came in the next day and claimed the animal, and they released it. And had to go run the animal down, and found out the animal didn't have a rabies certificate. Never been vaccinated. And it's living in the forest and probably got attacked by a wild animal.
Which will now have.
Pardon?
Which will now have rabies.
Which may have rabies.
Yeah.
So we initiated under authority the quarantine of the animal, quarantined it at the owner's property in this case because they appeared to be responsible, or we could have quarantined it at one of the shelters. So these are the things that animal control get into on an every single day. This is where we're at. So where are we having problems? We're having problems, first of all, because everybody loves their animals, and we need to educate the community better as to what we're doing. And we need to educate owners what they're doing and how to fix this. I've gone out on dog nuisance barking complaints where, you know, the neighborhoods are up in arms. They're ready to shoot each other over these things. And I'm talking to the person who's the dog owner, and they go, oh, I don't know, I'm not responsible. And I'm watching the dog interact, and I'm going, your dog has anxiety. Do you work? Yes. Is there something just happened in your life? Yeah, I just broke up from my domestic partner. This is where we need to be able to co-sponsor with shelters programs to have a behavioralist talk to them about how do you get over dog anxiety? How do you train a dog not to run on your property and all that? We also need the community to understand that animal control has dealt with these issues in the Curry County way. It's been complaint driven. Mr. Cedar and I do not drive around looking for dogs. We don't. We only pick up a dog when somebody's captured it, or it's injured, or something like that, or it's aggressive. And we need to educate the public. Cape Ferrilla Road. I saw a dog go through the Facebook 5-6 times, and then on Super Bowl Sunday, I'm getting a call. The guy had caught the dog, and he's describing it, and I'm going, I've seen that dog on Facebook 5-6 times. Got the dog and took it over the house and did some education with the dog owner. He goes, oh, I didn't understand that I'm liable when this dog's running loose, not only for a citation, but for the civil things. If somebody crashes their car, they're liable for it. in Curry County. So many people find a dog, they run around, get the dog back home and never tell anybody. And that same dog keeps going out and running away, or biting people, or chasing people, or barking. And that's why, again, code enforcement's been asked by all the law enforcement agencies to be kind of the center of the spoke of the wheel to get these complaints and start tracking them. The other things that dog licenses and rabies certificate pops in here. If you travel with your animal and you cross a state border, national border, and you don't have proof of rabies, your dog could be impounded right then and there. Our license is, again, is proof of rabies by statute. Okay.
Can I ask one quick question?
Please.
Okay, we're talking about licensing. Is it easy for an individual to go out and get a dog license, and do we need to, maybe advertise that? So,
Yes. Town and Country, Wolf's Dog Bakery, Dog Town and Country here, vet here, the shelter here.
so they're all over the place.
They're all over our partners in this, the shelters and the dog places are selling these things for free. They're collecting our fees and not even charging a penny to process it.
Well, do they check for rabies?
They are supposed to.
Can we have you finish your program, and then I think we all probably have questions. Bring Commissioner
Excuse
Pash
me.
in first, but you're doing great. Keep going.
Okay. All right. So I've talked about where we're at. Here's where we'd like to see the program go in the future. As I just talked about, developing public awareness of the animal control issues and goals. Dealing with this dog licensing and rabies issues, critical. Reducing the cost of services to the animal owners, to the county, to the shelters, by having an effective system here. And that will again come through the dog licenses. I'm going to just hit a tangent there. A lot of people think that, oh, my dog's chipped, it's okay. Or my vet's rabies tag, we'll get it home. Those are not trackable at night. We scan a chip in, and if it works, and they don't always work, it sometimes takes us 1 or 2 days to get the company to return the information to us. And the other problem with that is people forget to update that information. They move, they change their phone numbers. So having a dog license every year where they put their address and phone number down keeps the information current. We need to look at Article 4 and tweak it to deal with today's pets that are out there. There are 5 or 6 residents with 250-pound pigs that I've already dealt with. There are 2 or 3 residents with miniature horses. There are goats that are on property eating the neighbor's properties. One is eating the cable TV system for the whole community, went down because the goat ate it. We have rams on property that stand this tall with the big horns that are attacking people. Stand this tall with the big horns that are attacking people. The person says, I'm throwing the dog out of here, I can't take care of it because Brookings trying to get the problems resolved. I get called to the scene, I go, so what is the problem here? I'm broke, I'm out of a job, I can't feed my animal, it's better off that I just turn it loose on the streets and somebody else figures it out. And fortunately, we had an agreement, and I said, 4 blocks down is this shelter that will give you free food. And they have done that on request of the transient cars at the library down there and on the other places. And the same thing we're working with Wild Rivers to do, to provide these emergency services.
You just about ready for questions?
Yes, I got to stop talking.
That's okay. Great job. So, Commissioner Pash, would you like to go first if you have questions?
I'm good right now.
You said something really interesting. Commissioner Gold, do you want to go next?
I just have one. I know you get revenue from the licenses. Where does that revenue go?
100% of that
Shelter.
revenue goes to Wild Rivers Animal Rescue.
Okay, and that is here.
They are the nonprofit organization that the county contracted and turned over the county shelter, county animal control vehicle, and equipment to.
Okay, so do you think it would be a fair thing for us to do to give South Coast Animal Shelter some of that money?
What I think,
especially if we got more licensing?
what I've said to the county exec is, let's not renegotiate the split right now. Let's get the licenses up that we're talking about a reasonable pot of money to fund Wild Rivers and fund other shelters. But on her shelter, the second fee is not just the money that comes from us. When we impound an animal, if I write an animal impound notice under state law, the service that I impound that animal has the right to collect fees for boarding and impounding and releasing the animal.
Oh, okay.
So
That's
they
good.
do get these monies on top of what we give them for licensing fees. Again, so I don't get my partners in at Wild Rivers. They do a great job. I'm not trying to take away money. In fact, I just want to see that pool of money get up to where we can use it for more things than just paying the light bill.
So what about more advertising or whatever to get people out to get their licenses like they should?
Absolutely. That's why I got the county exec just approved me to be able to put on our own website pages as part of code enforcement. Just got that yesterday. We've created two Facebook pages. We're linking to every Facebook account we can as we move on. And I'm hoping that the board signs off and says, go talk to the community, go talk to the newspapers and get the stories out of what we're doing here and why these things are important, why that $25 insurance policy is to your benefit.
Okay.
So, the 5 Brookings employees, how many of them actually got bit?
Of the Brookings employees?
Yeah, you remember when you said you had to go down and kind of, it sounded like you made quite a rescue there.
Yeah, we rushed down. I think it was 3 employees got bit. And that was what was it, the worst part? I'm sorry, Commissioner, interrupt you.
No, it's
The worst part of it was most dogs will bite one person and run off. And this is a dog that bit one person, one after another person, one after another person. This is a dangerous dog, which also falls under the hearing statutes of where you are ultimately the appeal panel to it, whether or not we return a dangerous animal to an owner, or what conditions we impose as in lieu of that. So far, we've had maybe 15 dangerous animals where we've gone to the point of holding a hearing, and we've been able to negotiate them out and get a resolution. And it might be the animals are sent across the state to another county that can handle that kind of animals. Remember, a lot of animals that get in trouble are animals that are just too much for its owner. I had one a couple weeks ago on a Sunday. The dog's attacking the owner, attacking their family. The owner called the sheriff's department, called us. We responded out there. The owner was in her 70s, had a young 1-year-old pit bull, and it was just dragging her all around. And a little bit of education saying, this dog probably would do a lot better in a different home. And that's where it ended up, a different home.
Okay, back to the rabies. How many entities do we have in Curry County that can give those vaccinations and then carry to you that information and be available, work closely with you? Is it 3 or 4?
Every vet can do rabies. The shelters, each of the shelters hold low-cost rabies clinics periodically. Every couple of weeks, there seems to be a low-cost rabies clinic. The statute says it hasn't required the vet to transmit the information to animal control. It requires the owner to transmit it as part of the dog licensing program. But that said, we have recognized that some people have problems with our elderly community, and we have made a number of calls where they've said, our animal was vaccinated at Town and Country, what's the animal's name, blah, 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 and we'll verify it on their behalf and clear their license.
Yeah, it sounds like you're more than willing and anxious to close that gap.
Absolutely, that's what we want to go with.
Okay. So would you like to introduce the two people that are with you here? I'd like the public to meet Mr. Sieber and if you don't mind.
I have one question.
Go ahead, Commissioner Pash.
Yes, Mr. Portman, I just have a question. How many calls of the calls you get in the county, how many calls do you answer that are in incorporated areas?
Yeah, that's a
What percentage?
very good question.
Okay, because we triage, I'd probably say 70–80% of the calls are in unincorporated county. Of that, my experience is 40–50%. I'm actually dealing with the same people on code enforcement issues on the other side. So I'm dealing with the same people. And all of our responses is based on a triage system. So right now, I think we have 3 complaints pending down in Brookings for animal barking things, and they're put down at the bottom. That's not a priority, and we've given the complainants a log to log things so we can get a prosecution moved on it. So we're really not spending that much amount of time within the cities. And again, I'm anticipating where this is going at. I apologize if I'm wrong. But again, this money for the Animal Control District was created to be countywide. I know that the county has asked the county administrator if the city's willing to step up and pay their portion for animal control services. And I know my contacts in the law enforcement in those communities say, that's in your ordinance. Why are you doing that? So we've maintained a commissioner at a very low level of calls, and we triage them in and out of all of the regular code enforcement calls.
So you're saying only about 25% roughly are in the incorporated city area boundaries?
25% would be in, and that's primarily Brookings. Gold Beach is more proactive on doing their own. Port Orford is such a conglomerate up there of problems, and we're looking at an IGA anyway for Port Orford. And we have been so far away from Port Orford to having Mr. Sieber respond, or for me to respond at 10 o'clock at night from Harbor to Port Orford is just crazy. So we're trying to work that system out.
And I just have one more thing. Commissioner Pash, go ahead.
I have another question. Go ahead.
No, I just deferred to you.
Okay, one more question on that thought. Do you issue citations if you've got a repeat offender, like you've got a dog that was a problem, and you go out and you get it straightened out the first time, and then you get another call 3 hours later? Do you issue citations, Mr. Portman?
Yes, sir, we do. We've reevaluated when we're issuing citations because I will be honest, the last year we have warned, educate, warned, impound the dog to the shelter, which requires us to respond to the shelter to issue a citation, which is why we don't do that very often. But we're now looking at saying, okay, you've gotten your warning. Why are we warning you a third and fourth time? No, we're giving you another educational opportunity with a citation.
So I just have 2 more things. Would it be crazy to contemplate maybe another sort of amnesty program? Because I think I hear you saying that not even 20% of the dogs out there are being licensed. I'm not going
I don't
to
think
backdoor you into a, because that's who in the world would know. But the point is, there's a lot of them.
You're absolutely right. In our fee structure for the licenses, Curry County only has 2 charges for dog licenses. Neuter dog, $25, non-neuter dog, $42. We don't have a penalty in the dog licensing fee structure to have an amnesty program to waive. Some counties do.
Okay. My last question, we've been working a little bit on the wolf hybrid issue and getting permits to have those in our county. Would you want to consider adding any other potentially aggressive species to that list?
Yes.
So you can just think about that and report back, but I thought you might have some thoughts on that, and yeah.
Yeah, fortunately it turned out to be unsubstantiated, but I got a call the other day of an alligator living in somebody's pond near a river. And I'm going, are you kidding?
I'm even wondering about pit bulls, that, that'll make somebody really mad when they hear me say that, but when you talk about the sheer number of dog bites we have, what option do we have but to address that?
And probably what you're going at maybe is not just defining it as a hybrid wolf, but using our existing aggressive animal statutes to say if that animal's a nuisance and has attacked people, attacked other animals, well, we can hold a hearing. One of the stipulations could be in the hearing is that you need to register your dog as an aggressive animal. The fee I don't see as being a big money maker on it, but what I see as good is having that database so that when we're responding out to an address and you're going, what do we have here? And you look in this thing and you go, ooh, it's a wolf dog coming at you. You know how to get out of the vehicle and how to be prepared to deal with it.
Sure.
So, one more story on aggressive animals, just one. Harris Beach, our first big storm of the season. Someone took a pit bull down and tied it to the rest stop parking bench. Who was attacking people? And who was actually a little bit crazy. I got there and it had the mixed signals and all that jazz. And it finally ended up biting the animal attendant at the animal shelter in the face. Okay. And it had a harness on it and all that jazz. So we have some really potentially dangerous animals here. And yeah, I kind of, the more I think about it, like to have a registration because I'd like to have Mr. Sieber, who's a little less experienced with animals, know when he's walking into something.
Wow, yeah.
Give me a call.
Well, thank you very much. And yes, if you would like to introduce your people, we'd be grateful.
Okay, this is William Sieber. As you know, William was hired as a code enforcement officer. He lives up here in Gold Beach. He has a great work ethic, I got to say that. We're going to keep training and working on the issues. And I really love being able to call him up at 10 o'clock at night and say, hey, William, we've got a dog in Langless, and can you help me out? So I don't have to drive to Langless tonight. And he's been great about that.
Well, welcome, and you have quite a following in the Central Curry area, and we're very glad to have you here, and just keep up the hard work and the training, and just really appreciate you joining the Curry County workforce. Thank you.
Jennifer Alcorn is the executive director of South Coast Humane Society, a great animal proponent. There's been some recent newspaper articles. WAR was supposed to have their representative here as a new director. She's coming in, and it seems the three of us, we haven't sat all together in the same room, but we all seem to be on the same page, and I respect this lady.
Well, thank you very much for having me, and I'm really happy to be able to work with the code enforcement. We're doing a lot of innovative things down in Brookings to help code enforcement, in addition to increasing revenue
through the county licensing, what we do on a monthly basis is send the county all of our adoptions that have to do with dogs so that they can follow up and try to recoup some of those licensing issues. All the animals at our shelter are rabies vaccinated at 3 months, so they are definitely in compliance. It's just about getting the owners in compliance. So as moving forward and working with code enforcement, what we're going to do at our shelter is we have revamped our entire adoption package to include how they can get those animals licensed and make it easier for them. And we are not opposed. I know that we have in the past sold licenses at the shelter, and we are not opposed to processing that and turning over the fee to the county. If it's to help code enforcement so that they can have more educational programs and then it can help the community at large, we're more than willing to help aid those things as well. So thank you very much for having us. Do you have questions?
No, just stay there. Commissioner Pash?
I think Mr. Pash is an adopter of the South Coast Humane Animal, or maybe he's been at our clinics, I'm sure. I think most of you have.
Did you have anything else, Commissioner?
Yeah. I think that's all. I just want to thank you guys for all your service to the county. I know it's a position that, you guys don't get a lot of applause for, but there's a lot of people here that really appreciate what you do.
Very good. And I know that you do promote this on Facebook and on YouTube, so I just want to reiterate that we do want to help low-income people and everybody in our community. So we do hold a wellness clinic on the third Saturday of every month, and we are holding multiple spay and neuter clinics because we do want to decrease the population that is continuing to reproduce. So if you are in need of any vaccinations and you're out there and you're in Curry County, please check with us at South Coast Humane because we can help you.
Commissioner Gold?
Good. You guys do good work. Thank
Very
you.
good,
Better we do on the licenses, the less trauma the citizens and visitors are going to have.
Absolutely, absolutely. Keep your dogs on a leash.
Keep your dogs on a leash.
Keep your dogs on a leash. Thank you.
CEO Foreman, thank you very much. Did you have anything else?
Well, you know that my husband also sits on the board with you at the Budget Commission, Brad Alcorn, and he's also the volunteer coordinator for the Curry County Sheriff's Department Canine program. So that's the other little. He's my prettier half.
We appreciate that guy very much.
I do.
In
sometimes.
a variety of
I try not.
capacities.
You can't give him too much credit though. His head gets big.
Great to have you here.
He's just a pushover anyway.
Thank you again. Okay, next agenda item, the Harbor Transient Camp cleanup. What now? So how are we going to proceed on this? Should we go, let's go with Roadmaster Christensen front and center. I think you have a report, or do you have a report? Okay. Do you want to go?
Well, I'll keep it 2 minutes before I left.
Okay.
The problem's been abated down on the hill. I want to thank the road department, the sheriff's department, all the park department that came in and helped to solve this. Curry County spent over $22,000 to abate this situation, and now what we're faced at is preventing it from reoccurring. We did not get rid of the transients. In fact, I'm chasing transients in all new camps down south. And the fear is that this property that belongs to the county might become another campground. And how do we prevent that from happening?
Wow.
Good afternoon. Yes, so the road department's portion was about $12,000 for the cleanup. We hauled 8 truckloads, full dump truckloads of garbage out of there, and with our staff time and equipment. And I found out that this has been a historical issue, that there's been homeless camps there in the past. And what it was a great place to hide because of all the trees and bushes. And also that there was an old roadbed down there that was abandoned years ago, an old paved road behind all these trees and bushes that was really easy to hide. And We really didn't really find out about it till that road had been completely filled with garbage, and the camp kept moving closer out to where they could be seen. By that time, there was 8 truckloads worth of stuff.
Dump truckloads?
Dump truckloads, 10-wheel dump trucks, full big dump trucks. So I was currently having other issues there as well. There were corner vision clearance issues with traffic on South Bank and traffic from Underpass Road not seeing each other, and stop signs. It was some close calls in there. So I was in the process of removing some trees anyway. So after we did the homeless camp cleanup, we removed the trees that I had planned to remove, but then I told the crew, just remove all the trees and take care of this issue. And so we cut all the trees down, and what I'd like to do with that site, we need to keep it in the road department, because adjacent to there, along Underpass Road, is a road slide, and we need to be able to access that and maintain it in the future. So what I'd like to do is just level off that site and fill in that old road cut and put some native grasses and flowers in there, and just mow it a couple times a year where it would look really nice. It'll give good views of the river and the overpass, good corner vision clearances for traffic to see each other, and if we ever need to access through there for future road maintenance on that slide, so I could keep it, the cost of maintenance really low, and there would be nowhere for a camp to develop in the future. Talking with City of Brookings Public Works Supervisor, I talked with them because I know they maintain the ODOT right-of-way adjacent to there, and they mow it twice a year for the state, and I asked, well, could you just kind of drive right over there and mow that for us? And they said, yeah. So I'm looking at having like a partnership with City of Brookings at a really low cost for them to mow that grassy area twice a year. So that's what I'd like to do.
You got a good start.
Yeah.
Mr. Pash?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Richard, also, could you briefly speak, when we spoke about this a few weeks ago, you said if you do a cut on the front of that, then you'd have full visibility on the whole lot. Is that correct? You couldn't hide down in there anymore?
That's correct. And so what I would like to do is later this summer is pull all the tree stumps out with our heavy equipment and haul the stumps to our burn pile. But then, filling up that old road cut, we would grade off the top of that and level it out before we planted the grass seed, and then it would really open the area up, and there would be nowhere for anybody to hide in the future.
Mr. Gold?
So you mentioned that we're having the transients come back in again. Do they have places to hide in there, and how many are coming back? And
I don't have that information. All I know is that it sounded like years ago the road department was in there doing the same thing that we're doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
So my thought is just to take care of it once and for all and not let that situation happen again.
And can I say one more thing? Kudos to CTR. They gave us a 20% discount on all that garbage. So
absolutely. And also what they did is CTR, we had a equipment failure. One of our hydraulic lines broke, and we ended up working until 6 o'clock at night, and they stayed open late so we could get that area
they've been
cleaned
very
up.
cooperative.
We have a good working relationship
Can I
with
keep
CTR.
Can you come on up? Would you mind staying for just a second, Roadmaster Christensen? I had a feeling you might know where the transient people went, or do you know? I'm hearing rumors just above, below the old shopping center. Is that?
There are 2 camps behind the old shopping center.
Okay.
There are, on the other knoll, on the other side of the road that's cleared off, periodically there's camps there. There's a camp down on the bottom near the underpass. There's a camp behind Rite Aid, in the canyon behind Rite Aid. There's I kicked some transients out in the old Rogue Credit Union on Highway 101 down in Harbor. They were camping behind that. And they were camping across from Gold Beach Lumber in the drainage ditch over there. It was their encampment. And they're camping on the hillside off of Hoffelt, which is another problem property up there. There's a whole hillside that we're working on getting that abated on, and they're camping up there. So we keep chasing them from one place to another place.
So, Roadmaster Christensen, I spent about a half hour down there and watched a couple of the dump trucks take off, and it was nonstop people going by, residents. Of course, they were honking and happy and you know, quite pleased. And so that was amazing.
I want to add into Roadmaster's presentation. That access road down below does afford a place for them to hydrate. So his plan of filling that in is kind of critical, because otherwise you can't see until you walk into the property down below. And we've talked about that.
Right, and so our crews are going to be in the area this summer anyway, doing other maintenance programs, so we could mobilize in there, and with our equipment, we'd have it filled in and leveled in short order, so there wouldn't be much additional cost to avoid having future issues.
You're not worried about pulling stumps and losing soil?
No,
Okay.
not at all. I talked with the planning department, and we're working out all the different issues,
Grades.
and making sure there is no issues.
Okay.
In fact, I'm not going to try to find my presentation. I took a bunch of pictures in there. That knoll right now is beautiful. You look down at the river, anybody that stops in there, we've created, I think, a very nice location.
I'll forward you some pictures. It's pretty awesome. Anything else? Commissioner Pash?
No, that's fine with me.
No
You
more.
okay?
Mhm.
Thank you again. Onward. Well done. Incredibly well done.
Be off the record at this point.
We're going to go, I think we're going to skip, is it all right if we skip commissioners' reports today?
That's fine. I think we've all said
Huh?
plenty. We need to adjourn the workshop.
And then go to, then
I thought we were
discuss
going to
that.
go back into executive session.
Yeah, but we didn't finish our other agenda. Maybe good enough?
We have to go back to executive session first.
May I just ask one question?
Certainly, go.
Does any of the board have an objection if, County Executive Schmauser and I are talking about the code enforcement taking the active role of taking over the dog licensing program and setting up the notices?
Well, I just assumed that was the next step. Absolutely. You have Commissioner Gold, we're all on
That's
board.
fine
aren't we?
with me.
Commissioner Pash?
Yes.
Thank you. Exciting time. So we're going to adjourn this workshop, March 18th, 2020. Go into, back into complete our executive session, OR 192-6602D, labor negotiations, and 192-6602H, potential litigation. Thank you all.